Asher awoke to the familiar sight of a wooden ceiling above. For a moment, he stared blankly, the haze of sleep still lingering in his mind. I guess that wasn't a dream, he muttered, exhaling deeply. Yesterday had changed everything. This world, similar to Volarisa, shared the same power structure. But here, the ceiling of strength was far higher. Volarisa only knew of the Foundation and Awakener realms.
But here?
There was another, the Transcendent realm. And to return home, he would need to ascend to its third substage. His gaze drifted down to his body. And I'm officially D-rank now, he murmured. A small, dry smile tugged at his lips. Well, let's get started. After washing up and getting dressed, Asher stepped outside and joined the cluster of village youth gathering in the clearing. Today was Sight Day, the ceremonial send-off for those leaving Mint Leaf Village to pursue life as adventurers. Unlike Volarisa, which was embroiled in war and required military service, this world offered freedom. Here, strength was a personal path, not a national obligation. Hey! White Menace, you're finally up. Asher's expression twitched. Serena, bright-eyed as always, approached him with that infuriating nickname on her lips. Don't call me that, he replied flatly. She grinned and shrugged. Lose the scowl, and maybe I'll consider it, she teased, patting his shoulder playfully.
A harsh voice cut in. Serena.
Step away from him. They turned to see Max, another village youth with an inflated sense of self-worth and a not-so-subtle crush on Serena. Asher had seen the type before, cocky, territorial, and insecure.
Max marched over, jaw tight.
Who the hell is this guy anyway? He just shows up and now you're acting like you've known him for years. He's someone my father saved, Serena said, her tone sharp. And he's recovering. So quit being an ass. TCH. Don't come crying to me when he ends up being trouble, Max spat, turning on his heel. Asher watched him go, unmoved. Is he always like that?
Pretty much, Serena sighed. He's jealous.
I talked to you, and he hates that. Sounds like a you problem, Asher muttered, brushing past her.
She chuckled.
And yet here I am, still following you.
Let's go.
The ceremony's about to start. They arrived at the village square where the crowd had already gathered. At the center stood the village elder, a tall man despite his age, with a long white beard and a voice that commanded respect. Today, the elder began, you leave behind the safety of childhood and step into the unknown, into a world of danger, discovery, and growth. As adventurers, you seek not only strength, but wisdom and purpose. As the speech continued, Asher's thoughts drifted. He wasn't here to explore or chase glory. He had one goal, grow strong enough to return home. When the speech ended, cheers broke out. Some laughed with excitement, others trembled with nerves. Beside him, Serena folded her arms. So, what now? I'll become an adventurer, Asher said, eyes fixed on the horizon. It's the fastest way to grow stronger. Her face lit up. Great. Then we're going together. You're coming.
Of course. She declared. I'm a healer.
Besides, my dad says experience is the best teacher.
He nodded.
A healer on the road would be useful. Soon, village guard stepped forward, handing out bronze adventurer badges and maps marked with the nearest city, Palak City. Asher took his badge with little fanfare. Max, still nearby, scoffed. You? An adventurer? You'll be dead within the week. Asher said nothing. He didn't need to explain himself. Ignore him, Serena muttered, shooting Max a look. Let's just go. They joined a group of other youths and set out down a winding dirt path leading through forests and hills. The journey to Palak City would take 3 days, and though spirits were high, Asher remained quiet, focused. Serena, walking beside him, hummed softly. It feels weird. I've never been outside the village before. Asher glanced around, scanning the trees. Stay alert. We're not in the village anymore. You're too serious, she pouted. We haven't even. A rustle in the brush made everyone freeze. From the undergrowth, red eyes gleamed. Shadowfong wolves. Someone shouted. Form up. Max stepped forward, drawing his sword. The wolves attacked without hesitation. Asher didn't wait. With a flash of red energy, a scythe formed in his hands. He spun and cleaved through the first wolf in a blur of motion. Max flailed, barely managing a hit, while another youth was knocked off their feet. Serena's hands glowed green. Healing light. She sent waves of energy to the fallen, her expression focused. Asher moved through the battlefield like a reaper, his strikes clean and devastating. Within moments, silence fell. The last wolf collapsed to the ground.
All eyes turned to him.
Max stared, disbelief etched across his face. What the hell was that? No one fights like that.
Serena blinked.
That was incredible. Asher only shrugged. Let's keep moving. The rest of the journey passed with a new tension. They kept their weapons close, eyes scanning the shadows. By the time Palak City came into view, the sun was dipping below the horizon. Towering stone walls loomed ahead, the gates bustling with traffic. We made it, Serena said, stretching. Now the real adventure begins. Asher looked up at the city walls, his fingers brushing the edge of his scythe.
No.
This was only the first step. As the group approached the towering gates of Palak City, 2 armored guards stationed at the entrance stepped forward. One of them, a broad-shouldered man with a long scar across his cheek, raised a gloved hand.
Halt, he barked.
State your names and purpose for entering Palak City. Serena stepped up without hesitation, her usual bright smile intact. We're new adventurers from Mint Leaf Village, here to register with the Adventurers Guild. The guard's eyes scanned the group, lingering on Asher for a moment longer than the others. Something about the young man's presence made his instincts itch. Still, he said nothing, just gestured toward them. Badges. Each of them handed over their bronze adventurer badges. After a brief inspection, the guard nodded. Everything checks out. Head down the main road. You'll find the guild hall near the city center. Don't cause trouble. With a groaning creak, the gates opened, revealing the bustling heart of Palak City. The streets teemed with life, shouting merchants, armored adventurers boasting of their kills, and robed figures weaving through the crowd like drifting shadows. Magic-infused signs floated above shops, and the smell of spices and oil filled the air. Serena's eyes lit up. This place is amazing. Asher remained silent, his gaze calmly mapping the cityscape. Every alley, every tower, he noted it all. To him, this city wasn't a wonder. It was a launchpad, a place to grow stronger fast. Behind them, Max scoffed. Try not to gawk like a village girl, Serena. You're embarrassing us. Serena rolled her eyes but didn't argue. Instead, she grabbed Asher by the wrist. Come on. Let's find the guild. He allowed her to drag him forward. The Adventurers Guild was easy to spot, a massive stone building with steel doors and a crest of twin swords and a shield gleaming above its entrance. Inside, it was pure chaos. Adventurers shouted over one another, clerks negotiated prices for rare monster parts, and a few drunken warriors sang off-key songs in the corner. A young receptionist with sharp green eyes and short brown hair looked up as they approached. New recruits. Serena beamed. Yep. We're here to register. Fill these out. The receptionist slid forward parchment forms. 5 silver per person for registration. Everyone began pulling out coins. Asher, however, hesitated. His pouch was empty. Before he could speak, Serena slid her coins across the desk and added 5 more for him. I'll pay you back, he muttered under his breath. She just grinned. You can buy lunch later. Once the paperwork was done, the receptionist nodded. Welcome to the Palak Guild. You're now officially registered bronze rank adventurers. You can take E and D rank quests. Complete enough, and you'll be eligible for a rank evaluation. She handed each of them a metal plate engraved with their name, a mark of their new identity. Try not to die out there, she added with a wink. Serena shuddered. Great encouragement. Max snorted. I'm grabbing a quest now. Time to show this city what I can do. You mean flail around like you did in the forest? Serena quipped. Ignoring her, Max marched toward the quest board. Asher followed more quietly, scanning the listings. Most were routine, herb gathering, boar hunting, caravan escorts. Then one stood out. Investigate the disappearances near the southern forest. Rank D. Reward, 20 silver coins. Details, multiple civilians missing. Unknown threat. Proceed with caution. Serena leaned over his shoulder. That one sounds dangerous. That's why it's worth doing, Asher replied. We won't get stronger avoiding risk. She bit her lip, then nodded. All right. But we prepare properly. Meanwhile, in Volarisa, Captain Renard stumbled into camp alone. His armor was scorched black, his right hand gone, his left peeled nearly to the bone. The healers rushed forward, surrounding him with glowing palms. Bones reknit. Flesh returned. But he never woke up. Moments later, another battered figure arrived, Emily, Asher's sworn protector. Her robe was torn, face scarred, a vicious gash across her back. She sat beside Renard's unconscious form, her expression unreadable. "I failed," she whispered. Her fingers gripped a strange pendant now glowing at her neck. Above her, a blinding surge of energy flared into the skies of Volarisa. The Magnus family had taken notice. And they were furious. Within weeks, the Métis race paid the price. By the end of the year, nearly every Métis stronghold was gone. Their cities turned to ash. Their warriors hunted down. 3 families, the Magnus, Black and Indra, now occupied their world. Once, they allowed the people of Volarisa to grow freely. Now, they crushed those who had dared to harm one of their own. All for a single mistake, targeting Asher. But even with all their strength, they could not find him. Not yet. Return to Asher. Back in Palak City, Asher stared at the quest notice. Serena crossed her arms. "So, are we really doing this?" He nodded. "If we want to grow fast, we need to fight real threats." They left the guild hall and headed to the adjacent marketplace. Stalls lined the cobbled streets, offering weapons, armor, potions, and enchanted trinkets. Serena stocked up on healing herbs, while Asher tested the balance of a new dagger. "We need to be ready for anything," he said, slipping the blade into a leather sheath. Serena added a few more potions to her pack. "I've got better herbs now. My healing should be more effective." By the time the sun dipped low behind the stone towers of the city, they stood by the back gate of the guild, packs full, weapons ready. Asher spread out a faded map. "Here, the southern forest's edge. We can make it by dawn if we leave now." Serena took a breath, steadying herself. "Right. Let's do this." With their first true mission ahead, and danger looming beyond the trees, Asher stepped into the unknown once more, determined to climb, to grow, and one day return home.
Hey, welcome to Firescale Audiobooks. If you enjoy our audiobooks, please consider subscribing to the channel. Also, feel free to share your review in the comments section below.
Serena studied the map closely, her fingers tracing the path. "It looks like there are several narrow trails through the woods. We should stick to the less traveled ones to avoid drawing unwanted attention." Asher offered a small smile. "Exactly. And if any trouble does find us, we can handle it together." With that, they left the relative safety of the city behind. The road ahead was dimly lit by the light of the moon and scattered lanterns from nearby cottages. The countryside was quieter now, the hum of urban life replaced by the rustle of leaves and distant animal calls. After hours of travel, the city lights faded into the dark silhouette of the forest. The air grew cooler and damper as the dense canopy overhead blocked out the stars. The duo moved cautiously along a narrow, winding path, alert to every sound. As they ventured further, Serena whispered, "I have a bad feeling about this place. It's too quiet." Asher paused, his eyes narrowing as he scanned the undergrowth. "Stay close," he advised, his voice low but steady. Disappearances like this never happen without something lurking in the shadows. Every so often, they caught glimpses of movement, shadows flitting between ancient trees, or the glimmer of eyes reflecting the moonlight. The forest felt alive in a way that made both of them uneasy. After a short while, they reached a clearing surrounded by towering trees. In the center lay the remnants of what once might have been a campsite: scorched earth, broken tools, and the eerie silence of abandonment. The signs were subtle but unmistakable: people had been here, and something had forced them to flee in haste. Serena knelt near a smoldering fire pit. "This is it," she murmured. "There was a struggle here. But where are they?" Asher stepped forward, examining the area. "We need to search for clues." The locals spoke of strange lights and unsettling sounds. "Maybe we can find evidence of what happened to those who vanished." Their investigation began in earnest. Together, they sifted through scattered belongings, looking for any detail, a dropped personal item, unusual markings on the trees, or even tracks that might hint at what had driven the campers away. As the night deepened, the tension in the clearing mounted. Every crack of a twig underfoot or whisper of the wind seemed laden with warning. With each piece of evidence they uncovered, the mystery of the disappearances grew, and so did the certainty that this quest would test their limits far beyond a typical D-rank challenge. "It's definitely more than a D-ranker's work," Asher said, his powerful soul and absolute appraisal ability revealing exactly what had happened here. "So, do you want to continue?" he asked. Serena looked at him with concern. "Can you handle it?" Asher smirked. "In my current state, I can even beat a B-ranker," he replied confidently. Now that he was fully healed, he just needed time for his myriad energy veins and prismatic core to fully adjust to this world's mana density and signature, and now that process was complete. He was back in his prime. You sure are confident, lad, a sudden voice sounded from the darkness. In an instant, Asher snapped his fingers, surrounding Serena in a blood veil. Despite its thin appearance, the veil was an incredibly powerful protection, strong enough to withstand and even kill anyone who dared to touch it, except for the one inside it.
Clang. It's powerful.
I guess your confidence is not without basis, the voice spoke again as its owner stepped out of hiding. He was clad in a dark robe, but Asher could still see the white beard on his face. Care to tell me why an old man like you is killing people or kidnapping them?
Asher asked coldly.
The old man chuckled darkly.
Kakik, questioning me, are you?
You must have a strong ability then. But you will never understand. Never understand the pain of the helpless. His voice grew louder, filled with twisted emotion.
Never.
You people with your bestowed gifts, you can do whatever you want. Kill, betray, trample on the weak. You'll never understand, never. Find adventures at my virtual library empire. I see, you've been wrecked by someone powerful, Asher said as he stepped toward the old man. I can kill him for you. The old man looked at him suspiciously. I don't sense any murderous aura around you, so you haven't actually killed anyone. You've just been kidnapping them, holding them hostage until your target, the adventurer you want to kill, takes this mission and comes here, right? Asher asked, his sharp gaze locked onto the old man.
The old man smirked.
You're quite perceptive for a brat.
Asher shrugged.
Living in a war-torn world will teach you all kinds of scenarios and tactics, he thought. Then he spoke, name him and tell me his crime. Why would I believe you? The old man scoffed. Suddenly, he felt something sharp press against his neck. Because if I wanted to kill you, you'd already be dead. Asher's cold voice came from behind him, his blood-red scythe resting lightly on the old man's throat. The old man gulped in fear.
Okay. I'll tell you, he stammered.
Good, Asher said as he removed the scythe but kept his blood veil around Serena. The three of them sat near the fire, the old man sitting across from Asher while Serena walked over and sat beside him. Can you take it away now? Serena asked, gesturing at the blood veil around her.
Asher shook his head.
It's for your safety.
The old man scoffed.
Like I could even harm her in your presence.
He rolled his eyes. Asher smirked.
One can never be too safe. Then he added, besides, you're not alone. The old man's eyes widened in shock. His expression stiffened as he realized Asher had sensed something he hadn't expected anyone to notice. And whoever is with you, they're completely unexpected, Asher said, watching as the old man's face paled in realization. The old man's hands trembled slightly as he clenched his fists. His face twisted, struggling to maintain composure.
You noticed them, he muttered.
Asher gave a small smirk. You're not very good at hiding your emotions. The moment I mentioned you weren't alone, your pulse spiked. Not to mention, he suddenly vanished, reappearing several meters away as he swung his scythe at empty air.
Clang.
A sharp metallic sound echoed as his scythe clashed against an invisible blade. The air shimmered, and a masked figure in black robes materialized before him, their dagger locked against Asher's scythe.
Serena gasped. What?
The masked assassin immediately leaped back, landing beside the old man, their glowing red eyes visible through the mask. TCH, perceptive bastard, the masked figure growled. The old man sighed. I told you not to act unless necessary, he muttered. Asher spun his scythe once before resting it against his shoulder. Now that we're done playing games, tell me the name of your target. The old man exchanged a glance with the assassin before speaking. His name is Garen Alther. A B-rank adventurer, but that's just a title. In reality, he should have been executed years ago.
His voice darkened.
That bastard. He and his men wiped out my entire village. Men, women, children. He slaughtered them all for some noble's request and then framed our people as criminals. Serena's eyes widened in horror.
That's awful.
The old man clenched his jaw. And because of his connections, the guild never punished him. He kept killing and killing, hiding behind the system. That's why I started taking adventurers who accepted this mission.
To lure him in, Asher finished for him.
The masked assassin crossed their arms. Not like we could ask for help. No one believes us. Asher stood silent for a moment, processing the information.
So, what now?
Serena asked hesitantly. Asher turned his gaze to the old man and the assassin.
Where is he now? He asked.
The old man looked surprised. You're going to help us? Asher's eyes were cold.
I don't care about revenge.
But I do care about eliminating problems before they become mine. And if this bastard is as strong as you say, he might come after the village that rescued me.
Asher.
Serena smiled as she heard him. So tell me, where is he?
Asher asked. The old man nodded.
He lives in Palak City. He's a B-rank adventurer registered there, and that rank earned him his own mansion in the city. You can find him there, usually taking advantage of new female adventurers.
Asher's expression darkened. I see.
The old man sighed and glanced at Serena. If I'm not wrong, his men might come after her sooner or later. Asher's red eyes flashed as he turned to Serena.
I see.
Then we just have to wait.
The old man nodded.
I can provide the exact address. He pulled out a small piece of parchment, scribbled something on it, and passed it to Asher. This is where he stays. Asher took the slip of paper, glanced at the address, and clenched it in his fist. Then it's time to pay him a visit. Lloyd was not just a B-rank adventurer, he was a monster in human skin. He possessed a terrifying ability known as Slaughterer's Gift, a power that grew stronger with every life he took. The more he killed, the more his strength, speed, and durability increased. It was as if the act of slaughter itself fueled his existence, sharpening his instincts and pushing his body beyond normal limits. However, his power came with a drawback, a cool-down period. After an extended killing spree, his strength would weaken significantly, forcing him into temporary dormancy. During this time, he would hide away in his luxurious mansion in Palak City, indulging in his vices and waiting for his bloodlust to return. But when the cooldown ended, he would start all over again, hunting fresh victims to feed his insatiable hunger for strength. Lloyd preferred to target isolated and faraway villages, places where defenses were weak and news of his actions wouldn't spread quickly. He would wipe out entire settlements, leaving behind nothing but blood-soaked ruins and corpses. The Adventurers Guild remained oblivious to his crimes, as he always covered his tracks, ensuring there were no survivors to report him. To the world, he was an adventurer. To those who knew the truth, he was a butcher in disguise. Lloyd sat in his grand estate in Palak City, a place built on blood and deceit. His mansion, surrounded by high walls and guarded by men who feared him more than any enemy, stood as a testament to his cruelty. The air around him always carried a faint scent of iron, a lingering reminder of the countless lives he had taken. He leaned back in his chair, fingers tapping against the polished wood of his desk. His golden eyes, sharp like a predator's, stared at the map spread before him. Another village. Another hunt. His last massacre had weakened him, and now, after weeks of waiting, he could feel his power surging again. His body was itching to slaughter. A man entered the room, bowing his head in submission. Sir, the new batch of adventurers has arrived in Palak City. Some of them seem promising. Lloyd smirked, rolling his shoulders.
Promising, huh?
Any of them strong enough to be worth my time.
The man hesitated.
There's one in particular. A newcomer named Asher. Rumors say he cut down a pack of Shadowfang wolves with ease. Even Max, one of the village's strongest, couldn't compare.
Lloyd's grin widened. Asher, huh?
A fresh face in the city, but already making waves. He stood up, stretching lazily. Good. I was getting bored. Maybe I'll pay him a visit, after I finish my warm-up. His fingers twitched as a dark red aura swirled around his body. It was subtle now, barely noticeable, but soon, it would erupt into something monstrous. Somewhere, far from the comforts of the city, a quiet village lay hidden in the forest.
Peaceful. Unaware.
Waiting for its executioner to arrive. Asher stood in front of the simple yet elegant mansion, his sharp eyes scanning its structure. The building was well kept but not overly extravagant, just enough to show off wealth without attracting too much attention. So, this is the place? Asher asked, his voice calm yet firm. The old man beside him nodded. Yes, this is Lloyd's mansion. But... He hesitated before continuing, I don't sense him here. Asher narrowed his eyes. His absolute appraisal ability confirmed it. Lloyd wasn't inside. The mansion wasn't empty though. Several guards and mercenaries were stationed throughout, each radiating a decent amount of strength. Nothing he couldn't handle. Serena, standing beside him, crossed her arms. So what now? Do we wait for him to return?
Asher smirked. No need.
If he's not here, we'll make him come to us. He stepped forward, his hand resting on the hilt of his weapon. Let's knock on the door. But before he could even take another step, a sharp killing intent flared from inside the mansion. The guards had noticed them. The front gate swung open, and armed men rushed out, weapons drawn, their leader stepping forward with a sneer. "You shouldn't have come here, kid." Asher's smirk widened.
Funny.
"I was about to say the same to you." Asher didn't know why these guards were even bothering to argue with him, but who cared? He came here to kill, and that's exactly what he was going to do. Without another word, he vanished from sight. A moment later, the sound of metal clashing against flesh echoed through the air. Blood splattered as the first guard's body hit the ground, his throat sliced cleanly. The others barely had time to react before Asher moved again. A blur of movement, a flash of his blade, and more bodies fell. Serena watched from the side, unimpressed. These guards were nothing. In less than a minute, the entrance to the mansion was painted red. Asher stood amidst the carnage, his blade still dripping. He turned to the old man. "Where is Lloyd?" The old man, who had been watching with wide eyes, swallowed hard before answering. He left for a nearby village. Probably hunting for his next victims.
Asher's expression darkened. A village?
That meant innocent people were at risk. Without hesitation, he turned and rushed off, his body flickering as he activated his movement technique. Serena followed close behind, her eyes sharp. They had wasted enough time. If Lloyd was in that village, then they had to get there before the slaughter began. Asher moved like a phantom, his speed tearing through the wind as he rushed toward the village. Serena struggled to keep up, her mana flaring as she enhanced her movements. "That bastard. He's already started, hasn't he?" she muttered. Asher didn't respond, but he could already smell the blood in the air. It was faint, carried by the wind, but unmistakable. The village was under attack. By the time they arrived, the scene was worse than they expected. Bodies littered the ground. Men, women, even children, lifeless, their corpses twisted in unnatural ways. Some had been hacked apart, while others looked like they had been crushed under an invisible force. The entire village was bathed in red. And in the center of it all, a man stood grinning amidst the carnage. Lloyd. His clothes were drenched in blood, his hands trembling, not with fear but with excitement. His body radiated raw power, as if he had just ascended to a higher level. "So, you're the one who's been chasing me?" Lloyd licked the blood off his fingers, his grin widening. "I was hoping you'd take your time, but it looks like you made it just in time for the finale." Asher's gaze locked onto him, his expression unreadable. Lloyd's ability, Slaughterer. The more he killed, the stronger he got. But it came with a drawback. A cool-down period. After every rampage, his body needed time to stabilize. And right now, Asher could tell. He had just reached his limit. "Continue your journey on my virtual library empire. This is the part where you run," Asher said coldly, summoning his scythe in a flash of violet energy. Lloyd's grin didn't fade. Instead, it twisted into something even more deranged. "Run? Now, why would I do that?" Lloyd let out a laugh, his bloodlust filling the air. "You think I'm done? No. I just need a few more kills. And guess what?" His gaze flickered to Serena. "You'll do just fine." In an instant, Lloyd lunged forward, his entire body exploding with speed as he aimed straight for her. But he never reached her. Clang. Sparks flew as Asher blocked the attack effortlessly, his scythe stopping Lloyd's blade mid-swing. "You made a mistake," Asher said, his voice cold. "You should have run." And then, he counterattacked. Lloyd barely had time to react before Asher's scythe came down like an executioner's blade. He twisted his body at the last second, but the weapon still tore through his side, carving a deep gash across his ribs. "GH." Lloyd stumbled back, his grin faltering for the first time. Pain. He wasn't used to it. Every battle before this had been a slaughter, he was always the predator, never the prey. But Asher wasn't just some prey. He was a hunter. "You don't seem as excited now," Asher said, his gaze locked onto Lloyd. His mana pulsed, dark and suffocating. "What's wrong? Feeling weak already?" Lloyd gritted his teeth, forcing himself to straighten up. He had lost a lot of blood, but he still had strength left. He just needed one more kill. Just one. If he could slaughter even a single person, his strength would spike again, and the cooldown would reset. His eyes darted to Serena. But Asher was faster. Crack. Before Lloyd could even move, Asher's foot slammed into his chest, launching him back with enough force to shatter the ground beneath him. Lloyd crashed through the remains of a broken house, sending splinters and rubble flying everywhere. Serena stepped beside Asher, gripping her sword tightly. "He's desperate," she muttered. "If we let him kill anyone, this will get worse." Asher nodded. That's why we won't let him. From within the rubble, a laugh rang out.
KH. Ha. Ha ha ha.
Lloyd slowly rose from the debris, blood dripping from his mouth, his expression twisted in a manic grin. You think you've won? He rasped, his voice laced with something off. Then, his body started to tremble. Not in fear, but in excitement. I was saving this for later, but I guess I'll have to use it now, he chuckled, his blood beginning to boil, his veins pulsing with unnatural power. Asher's eyes narrowed. What the hell are you?
Then it happened.
A massive surge of bloodlust erupted from Lloyd's body, thick and suffocating. The air itself seemed to vibrate, filled with a dark, ominous energy. Serena staggered back. What is this? Asher's grip on his scythe tightened. A massive surge of bloodlust erupted from Lloyd's body, thick and suffocating. The air itself seemed to vibrate, filled with a dark, ominous energy. Serena staggered back. What is this? Asher's grip on his scythe tightened. You bastard, Asher growled as Lloyd chuckled.
KH.
I guess you know what I am now, Lloyd said, grinning as his teeth, stained with blood, gleamed under the dim light. You don't just kill them, you eat your victims, Asher said, his eyes turning red with fury.
Ha ha ha.
So what?
Lloyd laughed.
They exist to make me stronger. I taste their fear, their souls, their very essence, and it's worth it. A baleful red energy crackled around him, merging with the thick aura of fiendish energy. In both Volorisa and the universe beyond, there exists a forbidden taboo, one that no sane human would dare cross. It is said that consuming the flesh of those with abilities grants a 1% chance of acquiring their power. But in doing so, the person ceases to be human.
They become a fiend. A cursed being.
A monster that feeds on its own kind. It makes you an abomination, Asher muttered, his voice cold. A fiend, and fiends gain access to fiendish energy, a force stronger than mana, but inherently dark and corrupt. Lloyd grinned wider, his twisted aura growing stronger. And you know what that means, don't you? He sneered. It means I'll just keep getting stronger, as long as I keep feeding. Asher's scythe gleamed as he took a step forward. Not today, he said. And then, the battle truly began. Lloyd's grin widened as he vanished in an instant, his speed unnatural, leaving behind a blur of crimson energy. Clang! Sparks flew as Asher's scythe met Lloyd's clawed hand, which had turned jet black with a metallic sheen. The force of the clash sent shockwaves rippling through the air, making the trees around them tremble. Serena, still shaken by Lloyd's bloodlust, clenched her fists. She wanted to help, but something told her this fight was beyond her. That scythe of yours is fast, Lloyd mused, licking his lips. But you know what's faster? Without warning, his body distorted, limbs twisting unnaturally before he reappeared behind Asher. His nails extended into razor-sharp claws, gleaming with a sinister light as he slashed forward. Asher barely had time to react.
Shing!
The veil of blood surrounding Serena flared, forming a barrier as the claws scraped against it. The impact cracked the ground beneath them, sending dirt and debris flying. You blocked that. Lloyd's eyes widened before he grinned again. Heh. I guess that's what makes you fun. Asher remained silent. His prismatic core thrummed within him, adjusting to the world's mana density. His myriad energy veins pulsed, amplifying his strength. He could feel it, his body was now fully synchronized. He was back to his prime. Lloyd charged again, this time with twice the speed, but Asher didn't dodge. Instead, he stepped forward. Whoosh! With a single motion, he spun his scythe, the blade gleaming as it sliced through the air with perfect precision. Slash! Lloyd's expression froze. A deep gash had appeared across his chest, blood spurting from the wound. His eyes twitched, unable to believe what just happened. What? I told you, Asher said, his crimson eyes glowing with cold fury. Not today. Lloyd's body trembled, but instead of pain he laughed. Ha 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 ha. That's it. That's the fight I wanted. His bloodlust intensified, his wound beginning to seal at an unnatural rate. Good, Asher muttered, raising his scythe again. I was getting bored anyway. And with that, the real battle began. Lloyd's laughter grew twisted, his aura surging like a dark tide. The gaping wound across his chest sealed shut, flesh stitching together in seconds. His fiendish energy flared, wrapping around him like living tendrils of malice. See this? Lloyd grinned, spreading his arms. I evolve every time I fight. Every wound, every near-death moment, it makes me stronger. Asher didn't flinch. His crimson eyes remained cold, analyzing Lloyd's energy flow. regeneration, and an adaptive growth ability. Every time Lloyd got injured, his body adjusted, becoming tougher, faster, and deadlier.
Asher sighed.
So basically, you're a pest. Lloyd's grin twitched.
Ha!
That's rich coming from someone about to become my next meal. In an instant, Lloyd disappeared.
Whoosh! A shadow flickered, then another.
Lloyd's afterimages circled Asher from all sides, moving at blinding speed. His nails elongated into blackened daggers, each dripping with a deadly energy.
Serena gasped. He's
Predator's feast. Lloyd's voice echoed from every direction. A storm of claws rained down upon Asher.
clang, clang, clang.
Asher's scythe moved like a phantom, intercepting every strike with impossible precision. Sparks flew as he parried and countered, his movements fluid, effortless.
Then, in a blur, Asher shifted his stance. His scythe vanished.
Lloyd's eyes widened.
Where?
A cold whisper brushed against his ear. Behind you.
Slash.
A deep gash opened across Lloyd's back, his blood spraying into the air.
Gra!
Lloyd roared in pain, but before he could react, 10 shadows piercing strike. A series of shadow-like blades erupted from the ground, impaling Lloyd's limbs and pinning him in midair. Lloyd gasped, his body convulsing violently. Asher's figure loomed before him, scythe glowing ominously. You adapt to pain, right? Asher said, his tone indifferent. Then let's see how much you can endure before you stop growing. Lloyd's breath hitched.
For the first time, he felt fear.
Asher raised his scythe.
And the slaughter began.
Lloyd thrashed against the shadowy blades impaling him, his fiendish energy surging as he tried to break free. His body twitched and convulsed, adapting, regenerating, growing stronger. You think this is enough to stop me? Lloyd sneered, his wounds already closing. His fiendish energy pulsed violently, warping the air around him.
Snap!
The shadow bindings shattered as he lunged forward, claws aimed for Asher's throat.
Whoosh!
A scythe blurred through the air. Lloyd's hand went flying.
Ea arg!
He howled, stumbling back as dark blood splattered the ground.
Asher didn't stop. Slash!
Lloyd's knee was severed next.
Slash!
Continue your journey at my virtual library empire. A deep gash tore through his torso. Each wound bled black, and for the first time, Lloyd's regeneration slowed. His breathing grew ragged. His body was adapting too quickly. What? Lloyd's voice wavered. Why am I slowing down? Asher tilted his head. You're evolving too fast. Lloyd's pupils shrank. You see. Asher took a slow step forward, scythe dripping with cursed energy. Your body is desperately trying to adjust to every wound, but there's a limit. The faster you adapt, the more unstable you become. Lloyd looked down at himself. His flesh was twisting and warping, as if his body couldn't decide what form to take. You've been feeding on weaklings for too long, Asher continued, his eyes glowing with amusement. But now that you're actually being pushed, your own ability is working against you. Lloyd's face twisted in rage.
Shut up.
His aura flared violently as he forced his body to stabilize, but
it was too late.
Asher was already in front of him. Crimson execution.
Slash. The world froze.
A single blood-red arc flashed through the air. Lloyd's expression froze in disbelief. His head slid off his shoulders, his eyes still wide with shock.
For a moment, silence reigned. Then, thud.
His head hit the ground. His body collapsed soon after, twitching, before going completely still.
The once arrogant fiend was dead.
Serena let out a breath she didn't realize she was holding.
You killed him.
Asher stared at Lloyd's corpse, then swung his scythe to the side, flinging off the blackened blood.
He turned to Serena, eyes calm. Of course.
There was never any doubt. You have plundered the ability, Slaughter Gift. Slaughter Gift, each time you kill, you gain a random number of stat increases, with a 0.1% chance of acquiring the victim's ability. Asher looked at the notification as his plunder ability activated, granting him the Slaughter Gift.
It's essentially just a weaker version of my plunder, he thought.
However, as he examined the ability further, his expression darkened.
It wasn't all sunshine and power.
There was another hidden drawback. Warning, the first step down this path is irreversible. The more you kill, the more the ability will erode your sanity. Asher's grip on his scythe tightened. A cursed ability.
He muttered.
While the Slaughter Gift could grant incredible strength, it came at a cost. The more its wielder indulged in bloodshed, the harder it became to retain their sense of self. Asher sighed before decisively sealing the ability within himself. He had no intention of losing control. What should we do now? Serena asked, her face pale with panic as she looked at the armband flashing with a loud alarm. Each B rank and above adventurer's card contained a tracker, automatically recording who attacked them, how, and when they died. Within a minute, an S rank or stronger, depending on Lloyd's importance, would be rushing to this location. We do nothing, Asher said calmly.
We weren't at fault.
With a snap of his fingers, he shielded Serena in a thin blood veil, but this time, it did more than just protect her. It also made her invisible. Serena gasped as she looked down at herself, realizing her body was completely concealed within the thin veil of blood magic.
Invisibility, she whispered. Asher nodded.
It won't last forever, but it should be enough to keep you hidden while we leave. The ground beneath them trembled slightly. They're coming, Asher muttered, sensing powerful presences approaching at high speed. S rank or higher, maybe more than one. Serena clenched her fists. Should we run?
No, Asher said firmly.
That'll make us look guilty. Stay quiet and let me handle this. Within seconds, multiple figures landed at the scene. A tall man in jet black armor, his aura crackling with overwhelming energy, stepped forward. His sharp golden eyes scanned the area, locking onto Lloyd's mutilated corpse. Behind him, 3 other adventurers arrived, each one radiating immense strength. The armored man narrowed his eyes.
Who killed him?
Asher met his gaze without flinching. He attacked me first, Asher said calmly. I defended myself. Silence filled the air. The man's aura surged dangerously, but Asher didn't waver. Is that so? The armored man finally said. His expression was unreadable as he took a step closer. Tell me everything, he demanded. Asher remained calm under the intense scrutiny of the armored man. He could feel the weight of the powerful adventurers behind him, their sharp gazes analyzing every detail of the situation. He was preying on villages, killing and consuming people to strengthen himself, Asher stated plainly. I tracked him here, fought him, and won. The armored man, still unreadable, knelt beside Lloyd's mutilated corpse. He placed a gloved hand over the body, a faint surge of mana flickering as he examined the remains. One of the other adventurers, a woman with piercing blue eyes and a long spear strapped to her back, spoke up. You're saying you took him down alone? She asked skeptically. Yes, Asher answered without hesitation. She frowned but didn't press further. Instead, the armored man finally rose to his full height and stared down at Asher. If what you're saying is true, he said, then you've done us a favor. Lloyd was an A-rank adventurer, but he was a monster in disguise. The tension in the air didn't fade. Though his words were neutral, Asher could tell the man was still assessing him, measuring his strength, searching for any deception. Another adventurer, a burly man with twin axes, scoffed. Kid, do you have any idea what kind of mess you've made?
Mess.
Asher raised an eyebrow. Lloyd wasn't just some rogue killer, the man growled.
He was part of a faction. A powerful one.
People are going to come looking for him. Asher's eyes narrowed slightly. He had suspected Lloyd wasn't working alone, but this confirmed it. And let me guess, Asher said smoothly, this faction won't care that he was slaughtering innocent people? The burly man gritted his teeth, while the woman with the spear sighed. Unfortunately, power speaks louder than morality. Lloyd was a valuable asset to them. His death will raise questions. The armored man finally spoke again.
What's your name? Asher.
The man studied him for a long moment, then gave a slow nod. You'd best be careful, Asher, he said. Because whether you realize it or not, you've just made some powerful enemies.
Asher didn't flinch. Instead, he smirked.
Explore more stories with my virtual library empire.
Let them come, he said.
The air between them grew heavy with unspoken tension. The armored man studied Asher for another moment before turning to his companions.
We take the body back, he ordered. We report what happened.
But we don't interfere any further. The burly man scowled. You're just gonna let this brat walk away? The armored man's gaze didn't waver. Lloyd was a threat to everyone, not just civilians. If we punish someone for taking down a monster, what message does that send? The blue-eyed woman sighed. I don't disagree, but this is going to put a target on his back. The faction Lloyd was part of, they don't take losses lightly. Asher crossed his arms. I can handle it. The burly man scoffed but didn't argue further. Instead, He turned and helped lift Lloyd's corpse. The armored man gave Asher one last look before motioning for his team to move out. As they left, Serena finally dropped her invisibility veil and stepped forward.
That was tense, she muttered.
Asher's expression remained calm, but his mind was already analyzing the situation. Lloyd was part of something bigger. A faction strong enough to protect an A-rank adventurer, even after he was exposed as a killer. That meant there were people behind the scenes, powerful enough to manipulate the system.
And now, they would come looking for him.
Should we leave the city?
Serena asked. Asher shook his head. No.
Running away would make us look weak. We continue as planned. Serena bit her lip. And if they come for us? Asher's red eyes gleamed. Then we make sure they regret it. Besides, I am not weak, and I can even use my full power in this world now. Perhaps that teleportation happened for a good cause, he mumbled as he looked ahead. Now I can use my full power without worrying about someone spying on me or trying to kill me. A smirk formed on his lips. I'm going to enjoy my cheats here fully. The city remained eerily silent as Asher and Serena left the scene. The cold night air carried the distant murmurs of adventurers discussing the recent battle. Word would spread soon. An unknown adventurer had killed Lloyd, a high-ranking menace. Serena walked beside Asher, occasionally glancing at him. So, what's next? Asher remained silent for a moment before speaking. We need to prepare.
Serena frowned. For what?
Asher's gaze turned sharp. Lloyd wasn't just some rogue killer. If what they said is true, he belonged to a faction, one powerful enough to back an A-rank adventurer despite his crimes. They won't just let this go. Serena sighed, rubbing her temples. So, you're saying we're going to be hunted now? Most likely, Asher admitted. But that just means they'll come to us. A chill ran down Serena's spine at the way he said it, not with fear but anticipation. She had traveled with Asher long enough to know one thing: he thrived in battle. Before they find us, we should investigate, Asher continued. If Lloyd was just a pawn, then we need to figure out who the real players are. Serena crossed her arms. And where do we start? Asher glanced at the slip of paper the old man had given him earlier, the one containing an address. We start here. The address led them to an inconspicuous building in the heart of Palak City's slums. From the outside, it looked abandoned, cracked walls, broken windows, and a faint scent of rot lingering in the air. Serena wrinkled her nose. Are you sure this is the right place? Asher nodded and pushed the door open. The hinges creaked, and dust swirled around them as they stepped inside. The room was dimly lit, but Asher's sharp vision picked up something unusual. The ground had been disturbed. Someone was here recently, he muttered, kneeling to inspect the marks on the floor. Serena crouched beside him. Looks like something was dragged. Asher traced his fingers along the markings before noticing a faint, almost imperceptible seam in the floor.
A hidden compartment, he muttered.
With a swift motion, he pressed against the floorboards, and a section of the ground gave way, revealing a hidden passage leading underground. A cold, stale breeze drifted up from below.
Serena swallowed. Do we go in?
Asher didn't hesitate. We're already here. With that, they descended into the darkness, unaware of the secrets that awaited them. Asher and Serena descended cautiously, the air growing colder with each step. The passage was narrow, lined with damp stone walls that bore deep claw-like scratches. The scent of decay thickened the deeper they went. Serena shivered. I don't like this. Asher remained silent but kept his scythe ready. His instincts screamed danger. Whatever was hidden down here was something unnatural. At the bottom of the stairs, the passage opened into a large underground chamber, dimly illuminated by eerie blue crystals embedded in the walls. The sight before them made Serena gasp. Rows of cages lined the chamber, each filled with shackled humans. Men, women, and even children, their bodies frail, their eyes hollow. Many bore deep scars, fresh wounds, or signs of experimentation. Serena clenched her fists. What the hell is this? Asher narrowed his eyes. A harvesting ground. A deep, chilling voice echoed from the darkness. You're smarter than you look. A tall, gaunt figure stepped into the dim light. His skin was pale and stretched tight over his bones, his black robes adorned with symbols of ancient, forbidden magic. Dark energy radiated from him like a storm.
Serena tensed.
Who are you? The man smirked, his eyes gleaming with twisted amusement. I am Valak, overseer of this facility. And you have made a grave mistake coming here. Asher's grip on his scythe tightened. You're the one behind Lloyd's rampage, aren't you?
Valak chuckled. Lloyd? Oh, he was just one of many.
A mere hound set loose to gather resources. But you have proven far more valuable.
Asher's eyes flashed. What do you mean? Valak chuckled. Lloyd? Oh, he was just one of many.
A mere hound set loose to gather resources. But you have proven far more valuable.
Asher's eyes flashed. What do you mean?
Valak raised his hand, and the blue crystals in the walls pulsed. Suddenly, the cages rattled, and the prisoners inside convulsed, their bodies twitching unnaturally. Dark veins spread across their skin as their eyes turned black.
Serena gasped.
They're turning into...
Valak grinned. Fiends.
The prisoners let out monstrous shrieks as they broke free, their bodies twisting and morphing into nightmarish creatures. Their limbs lengthened, their flesh hardened into dark, armored plates, and their fingers turned into clawed weapons of death. Valak spread his arms. Let's see how well you handle my creations. With a single gesture, he sent the horde charging toward Asher and Serena. Asher's face turned cold as he took in the scene before him. His expression, already hardened, grew even darker when he saw the children among the prisoners beginning to transform into fiends. You twisted bastard. Serena muttered, horror evident in her voice. Valak only laughed, his voice filled with amusement. Do they not make beautiful beasts? He sneered, watching the children scream as their bodies mutated. I wonder how it would feel when you turn into one of them. Asher's gaze snapped toward him, his crimson eyes burning with pure rage. Valak's smug smile faltered for a moment. He quickly masked it with a sneer, stepping forward as dark energy crackled around his fingers. Maybe in your next life, Valak said, raising his hand. In an instant, he unleashed a torrent of cursed energy, aiming straight at Asher. But before it could reach him, Asher moved. A sharp metallic ring echoed through the chamber as his scythe sliced through the air. Valak barely had time to react before Asher vanished from sight, his speed blurring the air around him.
Shing!
A deep gash appeared across Valak's chest before he even realized what had happened. G.H. He coughed, staggering back as dark blood dripped from the wound. His eyes widened in disbelief. You! Experience tales at my virtual library empire. Asher didn't let him finish. He closed the distance instantly, his scythe gleaming under the dim, eerie light. Clang! Valak barely managed to summon a barrier of cursed energy in time, the force of Asher's attack sending shockwaves across the room. The air crackled with violent energy as their powers clashed. Serena watched from behind the blood veil Asher had placed around her, her heart pounding. She had seen Asher fight before, but this was something else entirely. Valak gritted his teeth, his barrier fracturing under Asher's relentless assault. You think I'll go down that easily? He spat, his hands clawing at the air. Dark tendrils erupted from his body, twisting like snakes as they lashed out toward Asher. But Asher's crimson eyes gleamed. Whoosh! Before the tendrils could reach him, Asher spun his scythe, severing them midair. The cursed energy dispersed into nothingness. You're too slow, Asher said coldly. Valak snarled and leaped back, blood still dripping from his wound. Heh, it seems I underestimated you, he admitted, a manic grin spreading across his face. Then, his entire body started to change. Dark mist coiled around him, his muscles bulging unnaturally as his eyes turned completely black. His skin stretched and hardened, horns sprouting from his skull. The presence that filled the room now was not human. Asher narrowed his eyes. You're not just any fiend, he muttered. Valak let out a guttural laugh, his voice now distorted and inhuman. No. I'm something much worse. And with that he lunged. As Valak lunged, the air around him twisted with dark energy. His clawed hands, now elongated and reinforced with jagged bone, swiped toward Asher with terrifying force. Swoosh! Asher barely tilted his head, the claws slicing through the empty air where his face had been just moments before. But even as he dodged, he could feel the sheer pressure behind the attack. It wasn't just raw power, it was a fiend's hunger, an insatiable need to consume and grow stronger. Thud! Valak's feet cracked the ground as he landed, his monstrous form towering over Asher. His once human face had stretched and deformed, his mouth filled with rows of jagged teeth like a predator designed to tear through flesh. His muscles had thickened unnaturally, his veins pulsing with dark energy. Serena, still hidden within Asher's blood veil, shivered as she watched. This isn't just a transformation, she muttered, gripping her dagger tightly. He's evolving. Asher's eyes remained unreadable, but inside, his mind was analyzing everything. So this is the real effect of devouring countless abilities. This wasn't the first time he had fought something powerful, but Valak was different. Unlike Lloyd, who had still retained some human aspects, Valak had completely crossed the line into monstrosity. He wasn't just a fiend anymore. He was becoming a demon. Valak grinned, revealing his newly formed serrated fangs. "Heh. I can feel it," he growled, his deep voice sending vibrations through the air. "The power surging inside me, the strength of every soul I've devoured." A black aura radiated from his body, filled with malice and hunger. "You should feel honored, Asher. You're about to become my next meal." Boom. Valak exploded forward with speed that shouldn't have been possible for his massive size, tearing through the air like a living nightmare. But Asher didn't move. Valak's clawed hand, charged with cursed energy, sliced forward, aiming to cleave Asher in half. Only for his attack to hit nothing. Whoosh. A second later, he felt a chilling sensation against his neck. Shink. His body froze. Asher's scythe was already there, resting against his jugular, its edge dripping with a faint crimson light. "I told you," Asher said calmly, his voice devoid of fear. "You're too slow." Valak's pupils dilated. "Impossible. I didn't even see him move." Before Valak could react, Asher moved. In a single fluid motion, he swung his scythe. Shink. A deep, bloody arc sliced across Valak's chest. Gra! Valak howled, stumbling backward as blackened blood sprayed from the wound. His body tried to regenerate instantly, but the cut refused to heal properly. Valak's instinct screamed in warning. "What the hell, oh? That attack, it's eating away at my body." He looked down at the wound, horrified. The place where Asher's scythe had struck wasn't just cut, it was corroding, rotting away, as if something was devouring him from the inside. Then he saw it. The faint, blood-red mist swirling around Asher's scythe. Valak's face twisted in shock. "You! What the hell kind of power is that?" Asher didn't answer. Instead, he vanished again. Whoosh. Suddenly, Valak felt something sharp tear through his leg. Slash. He barely had time to scream before another strike sliced across his arm. Shink. Then his shoulder. Then his back. Each attack came faster than he could react, leaving wounds that refused to heal, sapping his strength with every cut. Serena, still watching from within the blood veil, stared in awe. "Asher." She whispered. The way he moved, it was like he was dancing with death itself. Valak panted, his monstrous body covered in wounds that continued to rot away. His breath was ragged, his once overwhelming aura now flickering unstably. He gritted his teeth. "No. I won't lose like this." He roared, forcing out the last remnants of his power. The ground trembled beneath him as his body pulsed with dark energy one last time. Asher simply raised his scythe, his crimson eyes glowing. "It's over." Shing. In a single blinding slash, a crimson arc flashed through the air. And Valak's head flew off his shoulders. His massive body froze, then collapsed with a sickening thud. A moment of silence filled the air. Then, crack. The corpse twisted violently before suddenly disintegrating into black mist, fading into nothingness. The battle was over. Serena finally stepped out of the blood veil, staring at the empty spot where Valak had stood. "Is he dead?" Asher confirmed, flicking the dark blood off his scythe. "Fiends don't leave behind corpses. They vanish completely once they're destroyed." Serena let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Asher then looked around the entire facility, his expression cold. There was no other way. He had to kill them all. The fiend experiments, the ones who had already lost their humanity, there was no saving them. Asher gripped his scythe tightly, his eyes scanning the room filled with twisted half-formed fiends. Some were still writhing, their bodies contorted from the forced mutations. Others had already lost their minds, their glowing red eyes filled with primal hunger. Serena hesitated. "Asher, are we really going to?" "There's no saving them," Asher said, his voice devoid of emotion. "If we leave them, they'll slaughter innocent people. They're already lost." Serena clenched her fists but nodded. She understood. There was no mercy in a world like this. Asher exhaled slowly, raising his scythe. The facility would be their grave. With a single step, he vanished, his form blurring as he reaped the fallen. As the group approached the towering gates of Palak City, 2 armored guards stationed at the entrance stepped forward. One of them, a broad-shouldered man with a long scar across his cheek, raised a gloved hand. "Halt," he barked. "State your names and purpose for entering Palak City." Serena stepped up without hesitation, her usual bright smile intact. "We're new adventurers from Mint Leaf Village, here to register with the Adventurers Guild." The guard's eyes scanned the group, lingering on Asher for a moment longer than the others. Something about the young man's presence made his instincts itch. Still, he said nothing, just gestured toward them. Badges. Each of them handed over their bronze adventurer badges. After a brief inspection, the guard nodded. Everything checks out. Head down the main road. You'll find the guild hall near the city center. Don't cause trouble. With a groaning creak, the gates opened, revealing the bustling heart of Palak City. The streets teemed with life, shouting merchants, armored adventurers boasting of their kills, and robed figures weaving through the crowd like drifting shadows. Magic-infused signs floated above shops, and the smell of spices and oil filled the air. Serena's eyes lit up. This place is amazing. Asher remained silent, his gaze calmly mapping the cityscape. Every alley, every tower, he noted it all. To him, this city wasn't a wonder. It was a launchpad, a place to grow stronger fast. Behind them, Max scoffed. Try not to gawk like a village girl, Serena. You're embarrassing us. Serena rolled her eyes but didn't argue. Instead, she grabbed Asher by the wrist. Come on. Let's find the guild. He allowed her to drag him forward. The Adventurers Guild was easy to spot, a massive stone building with steel doors and a crest of twin swords and a shield gleaming above its entrance. Inside, it was pure chaos. Adventurers shouted over one another, clerks negotiated prices for rare monster parts, and a few drunken warriors sang off-key songs in the corner. A young receptionist with sharp green eyes and short brown hair looked up as they approached. New recruits. Serena beamed. Yep. We're here to register. Fill these out. The receptionist slid forward parchment forms. 5 silver per person for registration. Everyone began pulling out coins. Asher, however, hesitated. His pouch was empty. Before he could speak, Serena slid her coins across the desk and added 5 more for him. I'll pay you back, he muttered under his breath. She just grinned. You can buy lunch later. Once the paperwork was done, the receptionist nodded. Welcome to the Palax Guild. You're now officially registered bronze rank adventurers. You can take E and D rank quests. Complete enough, and you'll be eligible for a rank evaluation. She handed each of them a metal plate engraved with their name, a mark of their new identity. Try not to die out there, she added with a wink. Serena shuddered. Great encouragement. Max snorted. I'm grabbing a quest now. Time to show this city what I can do. You mean flail around like you did in the forest? Serena quipped. Ignoring her, Max marched toward the quest board. Asher followed more quietly, scanning the listings. Most were routine: herb gathering, boar hunting, caravan escorts. Then one stood out. Investigate the disappearances near the southern forest. Rank D. Reward, 20 silver coins. Details: multiple civilians missing. Unknown threat. Proceed with caution. Serena leaned over his shoulder. That one sounds dangerous. That's why it's worth doing, Asher replied. We won't get stronger avoiding risk. She bit her lip, then nodded. All right. But we prepare properly. Meanwhile, in Volarisa, Captain Renard stumbled into camp alone. His armor was scorched black, his right hand gone, his left peeled nearly to the bone. The healers rushed forward, surrounding him with glowing palms. Bones reknit. Flesh returned. But he never woke up. Moments later, another battered figure arrived, Emily, Asher's sworn protector. Her robe was torn, face scarred, a vicious gash across her back. She sat beside Renard's unconscious form, her expression unreadable. I failed, she whispered. Her fingers gripped a strange pendant now glowing at her neck. Above her, a blinding surge of energy flared into the skies of Volarisa. The Magnus family had taken notice. And they were furious. Within weeks, the Métis race paid the price. By the end of the year, nearly every Métis stronghold was gone. Their cities turned to ash. Their warriors hunted down. 3 families, the Magnus, Black and Indra, now occupied their world. Once, they allowed the people of Volarisa to grow freely. Now, they crushed those who had dared to harm one of their own. All for a single mistake, targeting Asher. But even with all their strength, they could not find him. Not yet. Return to Asher. Back in Palak City, Asher stared at the quest notice. Serena crossed her arms. So, are we really doing this? He nodded. If we want to grow fast, we need to fight real threats. They left the guild hall and headed to the adjacent marketplace. Stalls lined the cobbled streets, offering weapons, armor, potions, and enchanted trinkets. Serena stocked up on healing herbs, while Asher tested the balance of a new dagger. "We need to be ready for anything," he said, slipping the blade into a leather sheath. Serena added a few more potions to her pack. "I've got better herbs now. My healing should be more effective." By the time the sun dipped low behind the stone towers of the city, they stood by the back gate of the guild, packs full, weapons ready. Asher spread out a faded map.
"Here, the southern forest's edge.
"We can make it by dawn if we leave now." Serena took a breath, steadying herself.
"Right.
"Let's do this." With their first true mission ahead, and danger looming beyond the trees, Asher stepped into the unknown once more, determined to climb, to grow, and one day return home. The entire chamber trembled as dark energy pulsed through the air, responding to their murderous intent. "And if this Asher is strong, then we shall baptize him in blood and turn him into one of our own." Asher leaned back in his chair, lost in thought. The flickering candlelight of the dimly lit inn cast long shadows across the room. Serena sat across from him, arms folded, her expression grim.
"Blood cross," she muttered.
"I've heard of them before, but I didn't think they were this insane." "They worship Malphuz, the so-called god of carnage," the informant said, shifting uncomfortably. "To them, fiends are the true rulers of the world, and anyone not blessed with fiendish energy is just cattle." Asher sighed, tapping his fingers on the wooden table. "So, Lloyd wasn't just some random lunatic, he was their damn saint."
The informant nodded. "Yeah.
"And now that he's dead, they'll be looking for whoever killed him." Serena groaned, slumping back in her seat. "Great. Just what we needed. A bloodthirsty cult that thinks their butchered psychopath was a divine messenger." Asher smirked slightly. "Annoying as hell, but it just means they'll come to us. Saves us the trouble of hunting them down." "You don't understand," the informant said, lowering his voice. "Bloodcross doesn't just send assassins or warriors after their enemies. They perform rituals, forbidden ones. The kind that twist reality, summon monsters, and worse."
Serena frowned.
"What do you mean worse?" The man hesitated before finally answering. "They don't just want to kill you. They want to turn you into one of them." A tense silence filled the room. "I think we should separate ways." "They only know about me, not you," Asher said. The informant shook his head. "No. By this time, they might have already learned about her. Soon, they'll be coming after both of you."
Serena frowned.
"So, we're both targets now?"
The informant nodded.
Lloyd must have had a tracking artifact. Most powerful clans have treasure items that record how their members die. The Blood Cross wouldn't let his death go unnoticed. Asher's eyes narrowed. "That means the other churches must have noticed too. Malphuz isn't the only god, right?"
The informant sighed. "Of course, there are other churches.
But Lloyd was working freely here because this kingdom falls under Malphuz's domain." Asher exhaled sharply, rubbing his temple. "Damn fanatic territory rules. So, every god has their own domain, and if one god's followers enter another's, war breaks out." "Exactly," the informant confirmed. "Most gods prefer keeping their worshippers in their own lands, which is why these cultists aren't afraid to act freely here." Serena's expression darkened. "So, if we just leave this god's domain, we'll be safe?"
The informant nodded.
"Yes, but the nearest border to another god's domain is 500 kilometers away. If you can survive the journey, you'll be safe for now." Asher and Serena exchanged glances.
The choice was clear: run or fight.
"I can save myself even if I were to fight. I have many abilities that allow me to escape at any moment," Asher said, glancing at Serena. "But I can't guarantee your safety the same way."
He clenched his fists.
"So, we're running to the next god's domain."
Serena nodded.
"Okay, but what if they go after the village?" she asked, a little afraid. "They won't," Asher reassured her. "The village is in another god's domain, a demigod's. He's not as strong as Malphuz, but against the Blood Cross base, he's powerful enough. They won't dare cross into his territory." Serena let out a relieved sigh as Asher turned his gaze toward the horizon. Their path was clear: escape now, or risk being hunted down. Asher didn't waste any time. With a flick of his wrist, he activated his movement skill, his body surging forward like a shadow through the night. Serena followed closely behind, her steps light yet determined. The road ahead was long, 500 kilometers to the next god's domain. They had no time to waste. "How long do you think we have before they come after us?" Serena asked, her voice steady but tense. Asher narrowed his eyes. If they're as fanatical as they seem, they're already moving. Serena cursed under her breath.
Great. So, what's the plan?
Run the whole way. Not exactly, Asher said, his eyes scanning the darkened landscape. There are shortcuts, but they're dangerous. Either way, we're already in danger, Serena said as Asher suddenly stopped and looked at her.
What?
Serena asked, tilting her head in confusion. Explore new worlds at my virtual library empire. I'm sorry, Asher said quietly.
Why?
She asked, frowning.
Asher shook his head. I got you involved.
I should have spared him and… Before he could finish, Serena placed her finger on his lips, silencing him.
Don't, she said firmly.
You killed him and spared his future victims. It's not your fault, but there's those so-called gods who claim to rule yet ignore the pleas of those who serve them. Asher nodded, though a part of him still wanted to say more. In his mind, gods were nothing more than beings who had reached the limits of this world yet refused to leave. Instead of ascending to a greater realm, they stayed behind, playing rulers, dictating fate. In a way, they were just cowards with superiority complexes, unwilling to move on, content with controlling this world rather than stepping into something greater. Asher and Serena moved swiftly through the dense forest, staying off the main roads to avoid unwanted attention. The cool morning air was crisp, and the scent of damp earth filled their surroundings. Birds chirped in the distance, unaware of the deadly game unfolding in the shadows. Serena adjusted the strap of her satchel and glanced at Asher. How far is the next god's domain? About 500 kilometers west, Asher replied, his eyes scanning the path ahead. If we keep a steady pace, we can reach a neutral settlement within a few days. From there, we'll need to find a way across the border.
Serena frowned.
That's a long way. Do you think Bloodcross will come after us before we get there? They will, Asher said without hesitation. But that's fine.
Serena sighed.
I swear, sometimes it feels like you want to fight them.
Asher smirked.
I don't mind thinning their numbers a little. Serena rolled her eyes but didn't argue. They both knew that fighting was inevitable. Meanwhile, in a dark chamber beneath the capital city of Malfo's domain, a gathering of Bloodcross members knelt before a massive altar. The air was thick with the scent of burning incense and dried blood. At the center of the altar stood a robed figure, their face hidden behind a ceremonial mask carved with grotesque symbols. Lloyd has fallen, the masked figure intoned, their voice echoing through the chamber. Slain by an outsider, a heretic who rejects Malfo's gifts. Murmurs of outrage spread among the gathered cultists. Some clenched their fists, others whispered prayers for vengeance. The heretic must be punished. A tall, muscular figure stepped forward, his presence radiating murderous intent. His skin was pale, his veins blackened by the corruption of fiendish energy.
I will hunt him down, the man growled.
I, Gideon of the Crimson Blades, will offer his soul to Malfo's. The masked leader nodded approvingly.
Then go, my child.
Spill his blood in the name of our God. Gideon grinned, revealing sharp, unnatural teeth.
As you command.
Back in the forest, Asher suddenly stopped walking. Serena, noticing his tense posture, immediately put a hand on her daggers.
What is it? She whispered.
Asher's eyes narrowed. We're being watched.
Serena's heart pounded. Bloodcross. Most likely.
A faint rustling came from the trees, and Asher turned his head slightly, his fingers tightening around his scythe. He couldn't see them yet, but his instincts were screaming. Something dangerous was nearby. A slow, eerie chuckle echoed through the trees. So, you're the one who killed Lloyd. A figure stepped into view, his crimson cloak billowing as he walked. His pale skin and blackened veins marked him as something beyond human. Serena felt a chill crawl up her spine.
Who is that?
The man smiled, his sharp teeth glinting in the morning light. The name's Gideon, he said. And I'm here to send you to hell. Asher exhaled sharply, his grip on his weapon unwavering.
Big talk, he muttered.
Let's see if you can back it up.
With that, the battle began.
The moment Asher's grip tightened on his scythe, a surge of raw energy exploded from his body. The ground cracked beneath him as his mana, tainted with the stolen power of his plunder ability, roared to life. His eyes glowed crimson, and the air around him shimmered with killing intent. Gideon's grin widened.
Oh? Not bad. Then, in an instant, Asher vanished. Boom.
A shockwave ripped through the forest as Asher reappeared right in front of Gideon, swinging his scythe in a vicious arc. The blade, pulsing with dark energy, slashed toward Gideon's throat.
Clang.
Gideon barely managed to block with his massive curved sword, the impact sending him skidding backward. His feet dug into the ground, leaving deep trenches in the dirt.
Ha!
So this is what killed Lloyd. Gideon sneered, licking his lips. I can see why the higher-ups want your head. Asher didn't waste time with words. He shot forward again, his movements blurring as he rained down a flurry of devastating strikes. His scythe danced through the air, slicing through trees and leaving deep gashes in the earth. Gideon countered with monstrous strength, his sword clashing against Asher's weapon with earth-shaking force. With every impact, sparks flew, and the pressure of their battle sent shockwaves through the surroundings. Serena, staying a few steps back, clenched her daggers tightly. She knew she couldn't interfere directly, this fight was beyond her level. But she had to be ready to assist if things went south. Gideon's body pulsed with fiendish energy, dark tendrils creeping along his skin. His strikes became heavier, his speed increasing with each exchange. He was pushing Asher back. You feel it, don't you? Gideon chuckled, his sword humming with cursed energy. That little Lloyd, it's nothing compared to what I am. A violent pulse erupted from Gideon as his veins turned completely black. His power skyrocketed. Blood-rend, crimson baptism. A torrent of dark crimson energy burst from Gideon's body, warping the very air. The trees around them instantly decayed, their leaves turning to ash. The blood-soaked aura wrapped around his blade, making it look like a massive fang ready to devour Asher whole.
Asher gritted his teeth. He's this strong?
There was no doubt, if the fight continued, even he would be in trouble. But Asher wasn't planning on dying today. He gripped his scythe tighter and released his limiter.
Boom!
A dark storm of energy exploded from Asher, swallowing the entire battlefield. His mana, plundered abilities, and fiend-like aura merged into one overwhelming force. The sheer pressure shattered the trees around them, leaving only burning debris. Gideon's grin faltered for the first time. Phantom Reaper, abyssal execution. Asher's voice was quiet, but the power behind it was anything but. His scythe vanished, becoming nothing but a shadowy blur. 100 slashes tore through the air, each one carrying the weight of death itself. Gideon barely had time to react before the first cut appeared on his chest.
Then the second. Then the third.
By the time he realized what was happening, Asher had already disappeared, only to reappear right behind him.
Slash.
Blood sprayed into the air as a deep wound carved across Gideon's back. He staggered, growling in pain.
You damn! Asher! Serena shouted.
Asher exhaled sharply, suppressing the throbbing pain in his body. That attack had drained more energy than he expected.
He couldn't keep this up.
We're leaving, he said, grabbing Serena's wrist.
But, now.
Serena bit her lip but nodded. They both turned and bolted into the dense forest, their bodies flickering like shadows as they weaved through the trees at high speed. Gideon roared behind them. You think you can run? He lunged forward, his injuries already closing as his fiendish energy healed him. But the moment he tried to chase.
Boom!
A massive explosion erupted between them. Serena looked back, eyes widening as she saw a burning field of magical traps, ones Asher had planted earlier. You planned this? She breathed.
Asher smirked.
Always have a backup plan. Gideon snarled in frustration as the flames and collapsing trees blocked his path. He could break through, but by the time he did, Asher and Serena would be long gone. You think this is over?
Gideon roared after them.
The Blood Cross will never stop hunting you. Asher didn't bother responding. He just kept running. Because he already knew that. The forest blurred past them as Asher and Serena sprinted through the dense foliage, their bodies flickering in and out of sight with rapid movement techniques. Every step they took was calculated, dodging branches, leaping over roots, and ensuring their escape remained unpredictable. Serena panted as she kept up with Asher's pace. Where are we even going? Asher didn't slow down. We need to get out of this domain before they track us down again. If Gideon recovers fully, he'll be back with reinforcements. Serena cursed under her breath.
This is insane.
Just how far do these cultists reach? The Blood Cross isn't just a cult, Asher said darkly. They're a network, hidden in the underbelly of society. If someone like Lloyd was considered a saint to them, then you can imagine how many monsters they have waiting in the shadows. Serena clenched her fists. And they want you dead because you killed him.
Asher nodded.
Lloyd was their chosen one. Now that he's gone, they're going to be desperate to kill me, probably to recover his blessing or whatever twisted nonsense they believe in. Serena bit her lip, thinking. If we go to another god's domain, Will that even be enough to keep us safe? For a while, Asher admitted. They won't be able to move as freely outside of Malfuz's territory. But if they really want me dead, they'll find ways to get around that.
Serena frowned.
Then what's the plan? Asher's eyes darkened. We take out their leadership before they take out us. They stopped near a rocky cliffside, hidden under the shadows of overhanging trees. Asher pulled out a small map, quickly scanning it under the dim moonlight. There's a place called Black Hollow Citadel about 500 kilometers from here, he muttered. It's one of the closest territories belonging to another god. If we make it there, the Blood Cross won't be able to touch us as easily. Serena folded her arms. And in the meantime?
Asher smirked.
We make their lives hell. Serena raised an eyebrow. You want them to chase us? They're coming after me no matter what, Asher said, rolling his shoulders. Might as well turn the hunt around. If we take down some of their key figures on the way, it'll throw them into chaos. They won't be able to organize a proper assault on us if they're too busy dealing with internal losses.
Serena sighed.
I swear, you have the most reckless ideas.
Asher grinned.
Reckless works. She couldn't argue with that. All right, Serena said, adjusting her grip on her daggers. Who's our first target? Asher's smirk turned deadly as he pulled out a blood-stained document he had taken from Gideon's base. A man named Vern Calvis, he said. One of the Blood Cross's high-ranking priests. Serena's eyes gleamed.
Let's go hunting then.
And with that, they vanished into the night, becoming the predators instead of the prey. But how can we defeat him? I mean, if you had the power, we wouldn't be running away, Serena asked. Asher replied, the guy back there was an SSS rank fighter. I'm just a B rank right now. I can fight him, but killing him is not possible. But this guy, Vern Calvis, he's just an SS rank, Asher said, glancing at her.
I can kill him.
Serena narrowed her eyes. So you're saying we couldn't take down Gideon because he was SSS rank, but this Vern Calvis is just SS rank, so you can kill him?
Asher nodded.
Exactly. Serena crossed her arms. I feel like you're making this sound way easier than it is.
Asher shrugged.
I won't say it'll be easy, but it's doable. The gap between SS and SSS is massive. Gideon was beyond what I could handle right now. I could fight him, but killing him? That was out of the question.
Serena huffed. Fine.
But just because he's not SSS rank doesn't mean this will be easy. He's still an SS rank priest of the Blood Cross. He'll have divine blessings and all sorts of weird tricks. I know, Asher said, stretching his fingers. That's why we won't be fighting him head-on.
Serena frowned.
Then what's the plan?
Asher smirked. Simple.
We kill him before he even knows he's in danger. Experience more content on my virtual library empire. Serena gave him a skeptical look. And how exactly do you plan to do that?
We'll bait him, Asher said.
From what we've learned, the Blood Cross sees me as a threat now. Vern will definitely want to deal with me personally, especially after what happened with Lloyd and Gideon.
Serena nodded.
So we leak some information that you're in a certain place, lure him in, and strike first?
Exactly, Asher confirmed.
We control the battlefield, dictate the terms of the fight, and eliminate him before he can even activate his blessings.
Serena sighed.
You always make things sound so easy.
Asher smirked.
That's because I'm good at what I do. She rolled her eyes but couldn't hide her small smile.
All right, fine.
Where do we set the trap? Asher pulled out the map again. There's an abandoned fortress near the border of Malfuz's domain. It's outside any major settlement, which means fewer innocent people getting caught in the crossfire. And most importantly,
it's isolated, Serena finished, catching on.
Which means once he steps in, there's no one to help him. Exactly, Asher said. We send the right message, make it seem like I'm hiding out there, and wait for him to come to us. Serena nodded, gripping her daggers.
All right. Let's go hunting.
The abandoned fortress loomed ahead, its crumbling stone walls standing like the last remnants of a forgotten era. Ivy crawled over its surface, and the wind howled through its hollow halls. It was the perfect place for an ambush, isolated, quiet, and easy to control. Asher and Serena stood just outside, surveying the area.
Looks creepy, Serena muttered.
Which makes it perfect, Asher replied. If I were an SS rank priest looking to eliminate a target, I'd assume someone hiding here was desperate and weakened. Serena glanced at him. And you're sure they'll fall for this?
They will, Asher said confidently.
The Blood Cross doesn't see me as just another target. I killed Lloyd, and Gideon had to retreat because of me. They'll send someone strong, but they'll also be arrogant. Varen will think this is an easy execution, not a trap. Serena exhaled, adjusting her grip on her daggers. Alright, so how do we do this? Asher pulled out a small, enchanted communication crystal. We let the right people accidentally overhear that I'm hiding here. The Blood Cross will hear about it within a day, and Varen will come running. Serena narrowed her eyes. And when he does? Asher's expression darkened. We end him before he even realizes he was never the hunter. 2 days later, just as expected, Varen Calvis arrived. He came alone. Asher watched from the shadows, concealed on one of the fortress's upper floors. He could sense the man's mana, a dense, oppressive force laced with divine energy. Unlike Lloyd's overwhelming bloodlust, Varen's presence was cold, calculated, and suffocating. The priest was dressed in a high-collared black robe embroidered with the crimson sigil of the Blood Cross. His face was concealed beneath a silver mask, but Asher could see the arrogance in the way he walked. "Come out, little rat," Varen called out, his voice smooth and controlled. "You've caused quite a lot of trouble for my organization. Did you really think hiding in this ruin would keep you safe?" Asher smirked from his hiding spot. "Good. Keep talking. Make yourself comfortable." Serena was already in position, hidden in the shadows behind him. She was waiting for the perfect moment. Varen sighed dramatically, stepping further into the fortress. "You should have stayed hidden like a good little fugitive. Malfuz's mercy only extends so far, you know. But I suppose you already knew that when you killed Lloyd." His tone sharpened. "That was a mistake." Asher's grip on his scythe tightened. Lloyd was a monster. Killing him was no mistake. Varen turned his head slightly, as if sensing something. "TCH. He's cautious. I need to act now." Asher silently signaled Serena, and in that moment, the ambush began. With a flick of his wrist, Asher manipulated the blood around them, sending razor-sharp crimson blades toward Varen from multiple directions. At the same time, Serena struck from behind, her daggers burning with ethereal blue flames. Varen reacted instantly. A dome of divine energy exploded from his body, shattering the blood blades and forcing Serena to leap back before she was incinerated. "So predictable," Varen mused, adjusting his gloves. "Did you really think an ambush would work on me?" Asher cursed. "He's fast." But this was far from over. "Then let's see how you handle this," he muttered. Blood surged around him, condensing into a massive scythe in his grip. The air grew thick with his crimson aura. Varen tilted his head. "Ah yes. The little blood manipulator." A sneer curled his lips. "Let me show you what real power looks like." The moment Varen unleashed his power, the fortress trembled. A suffocating aura of divine energy expanded from his body, crackling like lightning and warping the air. His silver mask gleamed ominously under the faint moonlight as he raised a hand. "Blessing of Malfuz, divine shackles." Golden chains materialized out of thin air, streaking toward Asher like vipers. Too fast. Asher barely had time to react before the chains wrapped around him, locking his limbs in place. A searing pain spread through his body. It felt as if the chains were suppressing his blood control. "Did you really think you could defeat me with mere tricks?" Varen said, stepping forward. "I am an SS-rank priest of the Blood Cross. Your power is insignificant before the will of Malfuz." Asher gritted his teeth, struggling against the chains. Then, a shadow flickered behind Varen. Serena struck. Her daggers, still burning with ethereal blue flames, sliced through the air toward his exposed back. At the last second, Varen twisted, barely avoiding a fatal blow. One of Serena's daggers cut through his robe, searing his skin. "Annoying insect," he spat, unleashing a shockwave of divine energy. Serena flipped back, avoiding the blast. Asher clenched his jaw. "These chains, they're trying to suppress my blood control." A smirk formed on his lips. "Too bad for you, I'm not just limited to blood control." He exhaled slowly, closing his eyes. Then, his body burst apart into a mist of blood. The divine chains collapsed to the ground, empty. Varen's eyes widened. "What?" The blood mist reformed behind him. Asher materialized in an instant, his scythe already mid-swing. Varen barely managed to twist away, but not fast enough. The blade carved deep into his shoulder. Blood sprayed as he staggered back, his mask cracking from the impact. "You talk too much," Asher said coldly. Varen growled, clutching his wounded shoulder. "You bastard!" Golden energy flared from his wound, sealing it shut. You think this changes anything? He snarled. Asher rolled his shoulders. No. But now it's a fair fight.
Vern's patience snapped. Enough of this.
I will end you. His body flickered, then disappeared.
TCH. Fast.
A golden spear of energy materialized out of nowhere, piercing straight through Asher's chest.
Pain exploded through him.
The spear impaled him, pinning him against a crumbling stone pillar.
Asher.
Serena's voice rang out.
Vern smirked.
That's more like it.
Now die.
He twisted the spear. Blood poured from Asher's wound.
His vision blurred.
Then, a grin crept onto his lips.
Idiot, Asher muttered.
Vern's smirk faltered. Then, Asher's body melted into blood once again. Before Vern could react, a storm of blood blades erupted behind him, slicing into his body. Serena struck at the same time, her daggers plunging deep into his back. Vern screamed, his divine aura flickering. Asher reformed a few feet away, completely unharmed. You're not the only one with tricks. Vern stumbled forward, coughing up blood. His divine energy was waning. Serena didn't hesitate. She dashed forward, aiming straight for his heart.
But Vern smiled.
Blessing of Malphuz, sanctuary escape. A golden light erupted around him, and he vanished. Silence filled the fortress. Serena's dagger stabbed through empty air. Asher frowned, scanning the area with his crimson eyes.
He's gone.
Serena let out a slow breath, lowering her daggers.
Damn it. He escaped.
Enjoy exclusive content from my virtual library empire.
Asher clicked his tongue. That was close.
Vern had been strong, too strong for a straightforward battle. If Asher hadn't played his abilities right, the fight could have ended badly.
Serena turned to him. You all right? Asher nodded. Yeah.
Just pissed he got away.
She sighed.
Well, at least we injured him. That's something. Asher's gaze lingered on the blood-stained ground where Vern had stood.
You're right. We can't delay.
Let's keep moving. This time, he shaped the blood into wings, their dark crimson hue glistening under the moonlight. Wrapping his arms around Serena, he took off into the sky, soaring toward the border. Now that their ambush had failed, the blood cross would be coming for them. And Asher wasn't sure they were ready. Asher flew swiftly through the night sky, his blood-forged wings slicing through the cold wind. Serena held onto him tightly, her eyes scanning the ground below for any signs of pursuit. The blood cross wouldn't take Vern's death lightly. If anything, they'd be more relentless now. They'll come after us with everything they have, Serena muttered, glancing up at Asher.
I know, he replied.
Which is why we need to reach the Black Hollow Citadel before they catch up.
Serena frowned.
You really think the other god's domain will be enough to stop them? It won't stop them forever, but it'll slow them down. The gods have their own rules. If Malphuz's followers break into another god's domain too aggressively, it could start a war between divine factions. Even those lunatics have to think twice before doing that. Serena nodded, though she still looked uneasy. And if they don't care about the consequences?
Asher's expression darkened. Then we kill them.
Serena sighed, shaking her head. You make it sound so simple.
It is.
Before she could argue, Asher suddenly shifted midair, his eyes narrowing as he sensed movement below. Before she could argue, Asher suddenly shifted midair, his eyes narrowing as he sensed movement below. Several figures in dark robes were moving rapidly across the terrain, riding warped beasts that resembled a grotesque fusion of wolves and lizards. Their bloodshot eyes gleamed in the moonlight, and even from above, Asher could feel their twisted auras. They're already here, Serena whispered. Hold on tight, Asher said, adjusting his grip on her.
And then, he dove.
Blood-red streaks burned through the air as Asher descended at breakneck speed, twisting to avoid incoming projectiles. Spears of black energy shot past them, crackling with unholy power. These guys don't waste time, Serena muttered, drawing one of her daggers. Neither do I, Asher replied. At the last second, he twisted his body, flipping in midair before extending his blood-forged wings wide. A storm of crimson blades rained down on the pursuers below. Screams echoed through the night. But more were coming. Asher clenched his jaw. They were still too far from the border. We can't keep fighting like this, Serena said urgently. If they slow us down too much, we'll never make it in time. I know, Asher muttered, eyes flashing. Then his wings flared, and he shot forward at full speed, racing against death itself. Asher pushed his speed to the limit, his blood-forged wings slicing through the air like twin crimson blades. The night blurred around them as he soared forward, but the cultists weren't letting up. Dark streaks of cursed energy whistled past them, each one crackling with the same unholy power that Varen had used. These weren't just low-ranking zealots, they were elites.
Shit.
Serena cursed as she narrowly dodged a black spear aimed directly at her head. How many of these bastards are there?
Enough to make this a problem, Asher muttered.
The cultists below weren't even slowing down. Their warped beasts snarled and howled as they chased relentlessly, bounding across the terrain with unnatural speed. Even in the air, Asher and Serena weren't safe, some of them could fly. Black-winged figures were rising to intercept them, their bodies wreathed in Malfuz's twisted energy.
Serena's eyes sharpened.
We're surrounded.
Asher gritted his teeth.
Then we break through. With a single, sharp movement, he spun midair, his wings morphing into massive crimson scythes.
And then, he slashed.
A wave of blood energy erupted outward in a wide arc, carving through the nearest cultists with merciless precision. Screams of agony filled the air as their bodies were torn apart, their twisted energy flickering and fading. Serena took the opening. In a flash, she vanished, reappearing in the midst of the airborne enemies. Her daggers glowed as they tore through the throats of two cultists before they could even react. A third tried to counter, but she was already gone, her movements like a ghost in the wind. The battlefield was chaos. That's not gonna hold them for long, Serena called out, flipping back to Asher's side. I don't need it to, Asher said, his wings flaring wide once more. Ahead, the Black Hollow Citadel's border was finally in sight. But so was their final obstacle. A massive warped beast blocked the way forward, its hulking form towering over the land below. Its flesh rippled with black veins, and its 6 glowing eyes locked onto them with pure, predatory hunger. Serena inhaled sharply. That thing is huge. Asher narrowed his eyes. And in our way. The cultists behind them were closing in fast. They couldn't afford to stop. So Asher didn't.
Hold on, he said. And then, he charged straight at the beast.
The monstrous warped beast let out a deafening roar, its 6 eyes glowing with unholy light as it braced itself. Its massive, clawed hands reached out, trying to swat them out of the sky like insects. But Asher didn't slow down. His wings morphed mid-flight, shifting from sleek, crimson blades into a barrage of razor-sharp tendrils, each one lashing outward with deadly precision.
Shink.
The beast howled as multiple deep gashes appeared across its chest, black blood spraying into the air like ink.
But it didn't fall.
If anything, it got angrier. The air twisted and distorted around it as cursed energy surged, forming into a massive black spear of condensed malice. Serena's eyes widened. That thing is firing, Asher muttered. The beast hurled the spear with terrifying force. The attack tore through the air, a black comet of destruction aimed directly at them. Asher's instinct screamed at him.
Dodge or die.
With a split-second decision, Asher wrapped an arm around Serena and folded his wings inward, diving straight down. Experience more tales on my virtual library empire. The cursed spear grazed past them, tearing through the sky like a vengeful god's judgment.
Boom!
It exploded behind them, sending out a shockwave that sent the surrounding cultists flying like ragdolls. But Asher had no time to admire the aftermath. They were still barreling straight toward the beast. How do you want to do this? Serena shouted over the wind.
Fast, Asher said.
He unfurled his wings, twisting midair as his scythe reformed in his hand. Serena's daggers burst into flames, her grip tightening. Hit it at the same time? She asked.
Asher nodded.
I'll go high, you go low.
Serena grinned.
Let's kill this thing. With a flicker, she disappeared. And Asher charged straight ahead. The beast roared and swung its massive arm.
But Asher vanished.
For a moment, it looked confused.
Then, schlink.
A deep, crimson line appeared across its throat. A second later, Serena reappeared behind it, her blades dripping with dark ichor. The beast stumbled, its black blood pouring out in waves. And that was when Asher struck from above. With a single brutal swipe of his scythe, he split the creature's head in two. It collapsed instantly. The ground shook as its massive form hit the earth, dust billowing into the air like a storm.
Silence followed. Then,
Serena exhaled.
Damn.
That was satisfying. Asher landed beside her, shaking the blood off his weapon. No time to enjoy it. The rest of them are still coming.
She clicked her tongue.
Yeah, let's move. Without wasting another second, Asher took off again, Serena right behind him. The border of the Black Hollow Citadel was just ahead. They just had to make it. Asher's blood-forged wings sliced through the air as he soared forward, Serena right behind him. The Black Hollow Citadel, a towering fortress of obsidian stone, stood ominously in the distance. Its walls stretched for miles, fortified by massive arcane barriers that shimmered with an eerie glow. This was a domain belonging to another god, one outside Malfuz's influence. If they could just make it inside. How long until we reach it? Serena shouted over the wind.
3 minutes, Asher replied.
If we don't get shot down first. Serena cursed under her breath. They're not gonna make this easy, are they? As if in response, a hailstorm of dark projectiles suddenly erupted from below. Dozens of black spears, pulsating with fiendish energy, shot toward them at blinding speed. Asher's eyes gleamed red.
Hold on.
With a sharp flick of his hand, his wings expanded, morphing into a massive barrier of hardened blood. Crash! 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 The spears slammed into his defense, shattering on impact.
But more were coming.
Serena twisted midair, her daggers flaring with intense heat. I got the left. Then I'll take the right, Asher responded, retracting his wings. They split apart, each weaving through the deadly barrage like shadows in a storm. Below them, cultists in crimson robes stood in formation, their hands raised in unison as they chanted forbidden spells. A colossal glyph of blood and bone formed in the sky. A summoning circle. Serena's eyes narrowed.
Oh hell no. Whoosh.
She vanished in a streak of flame, reappearing above the cultists. Her daggers flashed. And in an instant, their heads hit the ground.
The spell fizzled. But it wasn't over.
A deep, guttural growl echoed across the battlefield.
Asher looked up.
A titanic fiend, covered in writhing chains, emerged from the summoning circle before it fully collapsed. Its 8 crimson eyes locked onto them, hatred radiating from its grotesque form.
Serena groaned.
Seriously? We're so close to the border. Asher exhaled, gripping his scythe tighter. Then let's end this fast. The fiend lunged forward, its claws swiping through the air with bone-shattering force. Asher and Serena dodged in opposite directions. Left or right?
Serena called.
I'll go high, Asher answered.
Serena nodded.
Then I'll tear out its legs. They attacked simultaneously. Asher launched himself upward, his scythe elongating into a wicked, serrated edge. Serena slid under the beast, her daggers flashing as she sliced through its tendons. The fiend let out a deafening shriek, staggering as its movements became sluggish.
And then,
Asher struck the killing blow. With a single, devastating swing, his scythe cleaved straight through the fiend's skull.
It froze. Then, boom!
Its body erupted into black mist, dispersing into nothing. The battlefield fell silent. Asher didn't waste time. We're moving now. Serena nodded, and they shot toward the citadel. This was their only chance. And they weren't going to waste it. Asher and Serena raced through the sky, the towering walls of Black Hollow Citadel looming ever closer. They were almost there.
But, boom!
A violent shockwave erupted behind them. Asher glanced back, his eyes narrowed. A figure cloaked in blood-red energy hovered in the air, floating above the battlefield like a god of war.
A high priest.
A member of the Blood Cross's inner circle.
Serena tensed.
Tell me we can outrun him. Asher's grip tightened on his scythe. Not likely. The high priest slowly raised a hand. Chains of cursed blood materialized in the air, twisting like vipers. And then, enjoy new stories from my virtual library empire.
They shot forward.
Asher reacted instantly. With a snap of his fingers, the air exploded in a flurry of crimson blades. His blood control clashed against the incoming attack, but the high priest's magic was on another level. The chains pushed through. One wrapped around Serena's ankle.
Her eyes widened. Asher. TCH.
Asher slashed through the air, his scythe severing the chain just before it could pull her back. Serena flipped midair, steadying herself. That was too close, she muttered. Asher exhaled. We're not done yet. The high priest descended, his blood-red aura expanding like a storm. You killed Varen, he said, his voice calm, almost amused. Did you think the Blood Cross would let that go unanswered? Asher and Serena landed on a nearby cliffside, just short of the Citadel's barrier. Didn't really care, Asher admitted.
Serena scoffed.
Yeah, we kind of assumed you'd be pissed. The high priest chuckled.
Pissed? No, child.
His eyes gleamed with madness. I'm delighted. A crimson sigil formed beneath him. The ground rumbled. Asher's instinct screamed. Move. The next second, a monolithic spike of blood erupted from the earth, aiming straight for them. Serena blurred out of the way. Asher twisted, narrowly dodging, but slash! A thin cut appeared on his cheek. He clicked his tongue. That was close. Serena gritted her teeth. We don't have time for this. Asher nodded. We need an opening. Serena's grip tightened on her daggers. Then let's make one. Asher smirked. I like the way you think. Without hesitation, they attacked. Asher flashed forward, his scythe whirling in a deadly arc. Serena moved alongside him, her daggers igniting in flames. The high priest smiled. Come then, children of blood. The battle had begun. The night crackled with power as the battle erupted in full force. Asher's scythe carved through the air, a crimson arc ripping toward the high priest, but the man barely moved, his fingers tracing a sigil in the air. Boom! A barrier of blood surged up in an instant, blocking Asher's attack completely. Serena darted in from the side, her flaming daggers aimed at his throat. Clang! The high priest parried with a blade of solid blood, countering effortlessly. Serena skidded back, eyes narrowing. He's fast. More than that, Asher muttered. He's toying with us. The high priest smirked. Oh? You noticed? He raised a hand. The battlefield trembled. From the pools of blood left behind by the fallen, twisted figures began to rise, grotesque humanoid shapes forged entirely from blood. Blood golems. Asher exhaled slowly. Of course he can do that. Serena clicked her tongue. This just keeps getting better. The high priest chuckled. You should feel honored, he said, his voice dripping with amusement. To be deemed worthy of my personal attention. It's quite rare. Asher rolled his shoulders. Then he smiled. Funny, he said. You'll be the second priest I kill this week. The high priest's smirk twitched. Serena snorted. I can't tell if you just pissed him off or made him even more excited. Why not both? Asher muttered. And then they moved. Asher lunged forward, his scythe glowing a deep crimson, the weapon amplified by his blood control. Serena vanished in a blur, her daggers gleaming with fire and fury. The blood golems charged. The high priest watched them come. Then, he laughed. The high priest raised both hands, and the very air shuddered with power. The blood golems surged forward, moving unnaturally fast, their twisted forms shifting and stretching, claws elongating into spears aimed directly at Asher and Serena. Asher's scythe spun, a wide arc of razor-sharp blood cleaving through the first golem. Splash! It collapsed into a pool of crimson, but instead of fading, the blood crawled back toward the high priest, reforming into a new shape. TCH. Regeneration. Serena leaped above him, twisting midair as she hurled her flaming daggers at the high priest's head. Whoosh! The flames exploded upon impact, consuming his figure. But then, the fire flickered and died. The high priest stepped out of the smoke, completely unscathed, his eyes glowing dark red. Ah, he sighed. I do love watching you struggle. Serena landed beside Asher. Yeah, he's definitely enjoying this. Asher gritted his teeth. We're wasting time. These golems are just distractions. Serena nodded. Then what's the plan? Asher exhaled. And then he let go. The blood in the air trembled. A violent pulse of energy erupted from his body, and every drop of spilled blood on the battlefield twisted to his command. Serena felt the shift instantly. The high priest frowned. Oh! The blood golems froze. Then, they turned. The priest's own creations twisted unnaturally, their bodies warping against his will, and then they rushed toward him. Find exclusive stories on my virtual library empire. You dare use my own blood against me? The priest hissed. Asher smiled coldly. You were right about one thing. The priest narrowed his eyes. Asher vanished. And reappeared right in front of him. The scythe swung down. The priest barely had time to react. Splurch! A deep gash tore across his chest, spraying blood into the air. He staggered back, clutching the wound. Serena darted in next, her daggers aimed at his throat, but the priest gritted his teeth, raising his hand just in time. A barrier of hardened blood formed, blocking the attack. But he was too slow. Asher had already moved again. Slash! Another deep wound carved into his side. The high priest stumbled, blood dripping from his wounds, and for the first time, his amusement faded. Impossible, Asher spun his scythe, expression cold. I don't have time to play with you, he muttered.
Then he turned.
Serena was already moving toward him. We need to go, she said, eyes scanning the dark horizon. More are coming. Asher exhaled sharply. He could feel it too. Even now, more auras were closing in. This wasn't a fight they could finish.
Not yet.
With a single thought, Asher shaped the blood around him into wings, grabbing Serena as he launched into the sky. The high priest watched them go, breathing heavily, blood still dripping from his wounds.
And then he smiled. Run all you want, he whispered.
The blood cross does not forget. The wind howled as Asher and Serena soared through the darkened sky, the crimson wings of blood beating furiously behind them. Below, the vast wilderness stretched endlessly, but neither of them felt safe. Serena gripped Asher's shoulder tightly. They're still following us. Asher didn't respond immediately. He could feel them too, a dozen powerful presences, some moving on foot, others gliding through the air, all relentless in their pursuit. They weren't going to stop. Not until he and Serena were dead. We need to change directions, Asher said, his voice calm despite the urgency.
Serena looked down. Where?
Asher's eyes scanned the terrain. The god domain border was still hundreds of kilometers away. Even with his speed, they'd never make it before being caught.
Then, he saw it. A storm front in the distance. Dark clouds churning.
Lightning flashing. It was the Black Gale Ravine. A deadly, chaotic stretch of sky filled with wild storms, unstable mana, and vicious creatures. Even the strongest hunters avoided it. Serena followed his gaze and paled.
Oh hell no.
Tell me you're not thinking what I think you're thinking. Asher's lips curled into a faint smirk. They won't follow us in there.
Serena groaned. They won't have to.
The storm will kill us for them. We'll survive. You say that like it's guaranteed. Would you rather fight them? Serena glanced back at the rapidly approaching pursuers.
She clicked her tongue. Fine.
But if we die, I'm haunting you.
Deal.
With that, Asher angled downward, diving straight toward the storm. The moment they hit the outer edge, a massive gust of wind slammed into them, throwing them off balance. Serena cursed, gripping Asher's cloak tighter. Lightning crackled violently in the sky, illuminating the swirling clouds in bursts of white and purple. The storm was alive. And it had no intention of letting them pass easily. Asher gritted his teeth. Controlling his blood wings in this chaos was insanely difficult. The unstable mana was disrupting his control, making every movement feel like a battle against the storm itself. Serena's voice cut through the wind. I hope you have a plan beyond fly into the murder clouds. Asher's eyes narrowed. Not die.
Serena huffed. Great plan. Love it.
A massive bolt of lightning suddenly exploded in front of them, forcing Asher to twist sharply to the left. The blood-cross pursuers reached the storm's edge.
And hesitated.
For a brief moment, Asher caught sight of their leader, a tall, masked figure wrapped in flowing red robes, a golden insignia glowing on their chest. They raised a hand. A surge of dark energy swirled around them, as if preparing to launch a final attack before Asher and Serena could escape.
But then,
the storm itself lashed out. A massive whirlwind formed in an instant, tearing across the sky like a raging beast. Even the blood cross hesitated before retreating from the storm's wrath. Serena let out a shaky breath. We're actually alive.
Holy shit.
Asher didn't relax. Because the real challenge was just beginning. They were now trapped in the Black Gale Ravine. And something was watching them. Asher and Serena hovered in the storm's grasp, battered by howling winds and crackling lightning. Every second inside the Black Gale Ravine felt like stepping deeper into the jaws of an unseen predator. Serena tightened her grip on Asher. Tell me we're not just flying blind in here. Serena tightened her grip on Asher. Tell me we're not just flying blind in here. Asher didn't respond immediately. He was focused. The mana in the storm was wild, erratic, but not random.
There was a pattern. A pulse. Almost like a heartbeat.
Asher's eyes narrowed. Something was alive in here. Something huge. Serena sensed it too.
You feel that? Asher nodded.
We're not alone. Lightning suddenly exploded across the sky, illuminating the storm's core. And for a split second, Asher saw it. A massive glowing eye staring back at them from the storm's depths.
Serena froze. Oh hell no. The storm shuddered. The air thickened. And then,
a deep, rumbling voice echoed through the clouds. Intruders.
Serena flinched.
Okay, I vote we leave.
Immediately.
Asher didn't move. His mind raced. The storm wasn't just a storm. It was a sentient entity.
Something ancient, powerful, and aware.
Asher took a slow breath, adjusting his grip on Serena. We're just passing through. We don't want trouble.
The storm laughed.
Then you have chosen the wrong path. Experience more tales on my virtual library empire. Suddenly, the clouds shifted.
The winds howled.
And the storm itself began to take form. A towering, humanoid figure emerged from the churning darkness. Its body was made of pure storm energy, lightning crackling through its veins, wind forming its limbs. Its glowing eyes locked onto Asher and Serena. If you wish to pass, you must prove your worth.
Serena groaned. Great. Another cryptic test.
Why do all ancient beings do this? Asher's eyes gleamed. Fine, he said, his blood aura flaring. Let's do this.
The storm smiled. Then survive. And then it attacked.
The moment the storm entity spoke, the sky roared with fury. A massive bolt of lightning shot toward Asher and Serena like a divine spear. Asher barely had time to react. He tightened his grip around Serena and twisted midair, forming a barrier of blood just in time.
Boom.
The force of the impact sent them spiraling downward, crashing through the turbulent winds.
Serena coughed.
We are so dead.
Asher gritted his teeth. Not yet.
He steadied himself, forcing the blood wings at his back to stabilize their fall. The storm's pressure was immense. He could feel his own blood boiling from the sheer mana saturation in the air. The storm entity's eyes flashed. You are weak. A vortex of tornadoes erupted around them, forming an inescapable cage of wind. Serena clicked her tongue. You just had to pick a fight with a literal storm god. Asher ignored her, analyzing their situation. The storm wasn't just wind and lightning, it had rules. The energy followed a pulse, a cycle,
a rhythm.
If he could figure out the pattern, he could disrupt it. Serena suddenly grabbed his shoulder.
Asher.
A spear of pure lightning was forming in the storm entity's hand. And it was aimed directly at them.
Die.
Crack. The spear launched forward, faster than thought. Asher didn't hesitate. He pushed Serena away, twisting his body to face the attack head-on.
Blood surged. Power flared.
A massive crimson barrier erupted around him, dense and pulsating with raw energy. But the moment the lightning touched it,
boom!
The entire sky lit up. Serena shielded her eyes from the blinding explosion. The force sent her flying back, but she managed to steady herself, looking around frantically.
Asher. Then, from within the smoke, a silhouette emerged.
Wings of blood, eyes glowing with power. Asher floated there, completely unharmed.
Serena blinked. How the hell?
Asher exhaled. I get it now. He lifted his gaze toward the storm entity, a smirk forming on his lips. You're not just testing my strength. The storm entity remained silent, watching. Asher's smirk widened. You're testing my control.
The storm pulsed. And then, for the first time, the entity grinned. Correct.
Serena looked between them. Wait, what does that mean? Asher didn't answer immediately.
Instead, he closed his eyes. And then,
the storm itself started to change. Serena's breath hitched as she felt the winds shift. The oppressive mana that had been threatening to crush them suddenly settled. The entity's lightning-drenched body began to flicker, its energy drawn toward Asher. Serena's eyes widened. Asher, what are you? Asher slowly opened his eyes. And for a moment, they weren't red. They were glowing white, like the storm itself. The storm entity's form began to dissolve, merging with the winds around them.
You have passed.
And just like that,
the storm was gone.
The howling winds faded. The oppressive pressure lifted. The skies cleared. Serena stared in shock. Did you just absorb a storm? Asher exhaled, shaking off the lingering energy in his veins. Not exactly. I just borrowed its power for a moment. Serena ran a hand through her hair.
Right.
Just casually borrowing the power of a literal storm god. Totally normal.
Asher smirked.
You'll get used to it. Serena sighed, rubbing her temples. I really hope not. With the storm cleared, they resumed their flight. The border to the next god's domain was near. But so was their next challenge. Because if the Bloodcross had any idea where they were heading,
they wouldn't be far behind.
The skies had cleared, but the air remained tense. Serena kept glancing at Asher as they flew, her grip tightening around his arm.
"You sure you're okay?" she asked.
Asher rolled his shoulders, feeling the lingering storm energy hum beneath his skin.
"I'll live." Serena frowned.
That's not reassuring. Before Asher could reply, a sharp pressure crashed down on them. Both of them froze mid-air. An overwhelming force. A suffocating, chilling sensation that seeped into their bones. Serena's breath hitched. This isn't normal mana.
Asher's eyes sharpened.
This is divine presence.
Serena cursed.
They found us already.
A shadow loomed above them.
A massive floating warship emerged from the clouds, its dark, jagged hull covered in glowing crimson runes.
The Blood Cross. Asher gritted his teeth.
Damn cultists work fast. From the warship's deck, figures clad in black and crimson robes stared down at them. A deep, booming voice echoed from the ship. Sinners who defy Malfuz, your lives end here. Serena instinctively grabbed her daggers. Please tell me we're running. Asher glanced at the distance between them and the border to the next god's domain.
They were close. But not close enough. They had to fight. Asher smirked.
Just long enough to get past them.
The Blood Cross moved first.
From the warship's hull, dozens of crimson chains erupted, snapping toward them like vipers. Serena flipped backward, slicing through several chains with her daggers. Asher extended his hand. A wave of blood spikes shot out, piercing through the incoming chains, shattering them. The enemy forces reacted immediately. Several high-ranking priests leaped from the ship, their bodies wreathed in dark energy. One of them, an SS-ranked executioner, pointed his blade at Asher. Your stolen strength won't save you, he spat.
Asher smirked. Funny.
I was just thinking the same thing about you. The executioner's form blurred. Serena barely had time to react, he was fast.
Asher, however, was faster. Clang.
Their weapons clashed in mid-air. The sheer force sent shockwaves rippling through the sky. Serena didn't hesitate. She vanished in a burst of speed, appearing behind another priest and slashing through his throat.
Blood sprayed. The priest fell.
But the Blood Cross didn't falter. More priests jumped from the warship, filling the air with crimson chains and dark magic. Serena spun mid-air, deflecting projectiles. There's too many. Asher's eyes burned red.
Then we clear the path. He lifted his hand.
And the sky turned crimson. Blood surged from his body, forming massive tendrils that lashed out like whips, shattering the approaching enemies. He twisted his scythe, sending a shockwave of pure blood energy toward the warship's hull.
Boom!
The explosion rocked the entire vessel. The priests staggered, just the opening they needed.
Now! Asher shouted.
Serena kicked off an enemy's body, launching toward the border. Asher followed, his blood wings flaring behind him. The executioner snarled. You won't escape. He threw his blade, a massive crimson sword that howled like a banshee as it flew. Asher didn't look back.
He lifted his scythe. And swung. Clang.
The executioner's blade shattered. The warship lurched violently as its runes flickered. The priests screamed, their magic unraveling. Asher and Serena crossed the border. And the moment they did, discover hidden tales at my virtual library empire.
The Blood Cross forces stopped.
The executioner's eyes widened in fury.
No.
A divine barrier flared to life, separating the two territories. They had made it. Asher and Serena landed on solid ground, breathing hard. Serena flopped onto her back. That was insane. Asher exhaled, wiping blood from his cheek. But he wasn't smiling. Because even though they had escaped, this was just the beginning. The Blood Cross wouldn't stop. And now, they had crossed into another god's domain. One that might not welcome them. So, this obsidian kingdom belongs to the dark god Volfong. Will he even accept us in his domain? Serena asked as she lay on the grass, exhausted from their escape.
Asher shrugged.
Only one way to find out. They rested briefly before continuing forward. After some time, they came across a small village nestled within the dark, misty landscape. The buildings were made of black stone, with eerie blue lanterns flickering along the streets. The villagers, cloaked figures with ashen skin and piercing silver eyes, stared at them warily as they entered.
Serena tensed.
They don't seem very welcoming. Asher kept walking. They're cautious. We're outsiders. A hooded man approached them, his presence calm but firm. You carry the scent of foreign blood, he said. Who are you, And why have you entered Lord Volfang's domain? Asher met his gaze, unfazed. We were being hunted by the Blood Cross. We seek refuge. The man's eyes darkened at the mention of the cult. You are enemies of Malfuz?
Asher smirked.
You could say that. The villagers murmured among themselves. Some looked relieved, others intrigued. Serena glanced at Asher, confused. Why do they care? She whispered. The hooded man answered before Asher could. The slaughter god Malfuz is our enemy, he said. Our Lord Volfang opposes him. Serena blinked. Wait, so Malfuz and Volfang? They are at war, the man confirmed. One seeks endless slaughter. The other seeks balance in the dark. Asher's mind clicked. That meant they were safe here. At least for now. The man gestured for them to follow. Come. You must speak with our priests. If your cause aligns with ours, you may find shelter here. Asher exchanged a glance with Serena.
She exhaled.
Well, at least we're not walking into another death trap.
Asher smirked.
Not yet, anyway. They arrived at the village chief's house, a large stone structure surrounded by eerie blue torches. Inside, the air was cold, but not unwelcoming. Sitting at the center of the chamber was an undead man, dressed in elegant black robes embroidered with silver runes. His eyes glowed faintly, a sign that he was something more than just a corpse.
Ah, new faces.
He smiled, his voice carrying both warmth and an unsettling presence. Welcome to our humble home. Serena frowned, whispering to Asher, I thought Volfang was supposed to be a good god. Why is this entire village filled with the undead? The chief chuckled, overhearing her. Because he is the savior of the damned. Serena stiffened as Asher raised an eyebrow. You must be from outside, the chief continued. I assume you know little of Volfang's ways? Enlighten us, Asher said, folding his arms. The chief leaned back. When mortals are abandoned by their gods, when they fall to plague, war, or tragedy, who do you think answers their prayers? Serena's eyes widened slightly.
Volfang, she guessed. The chief nodded.
Exactly. He does not forsake the damned. Those who die unfair deaths, those who perish with unfinished burdens, he grants them a second existence. Asher glanced around. Now that he looked closer, the villagers weren't rotting corpses. They were undead, yes, but they were stable. Their bodies weren't decayed like typical zombies. Some even looked nearly human, aside from their pale skin and glowing eyes. It was unnerving, but also strangely peaceful. So these people. Serena hesitated. The chief sighed. A plague was sent into our kingdom by the Blood Cross. A curse disguised as an illness. When the god of death refused to take us properly, and when the world abandoned us, Volfang took us in. Poor guys, Asher muttered, understanding now. The chief nodded. Indeed. But we are not mindless undead, we live, we protect our own, and we serve Volfang, who has given us sanctuary. Then, he turned back to them. Now, what is it you seek in the Obsidian Kingdom? Asher met his gaze, unshaken. Refuge. And a chance to fight back. The chief smiled. Then welcome to our lands. The chief provided them with a small but comfortable house, along with a detailed map of the surrounding territories. After a long day of travel and fighting, Asher collapsed onto the bed, staring up at the wooden ceiling. The whole god and domain thing is really starting to bug me, he muttered. Serena, sitting by the table and studying the map, raised an eyebrow. What now? Asher sighed, rubbing his temples. Everything about this world is just awkward. It's powerful, sure, but it's not exactly advanced. And even gods have fanatics. Serena chuckled dryly. That's a given. Still, Asher continued, one god saves people by turning them into undead, while another god butchers people in the name of slaughter. Either they're all fools who can't see the bigger picture, or they're too blinded by their own fanaticism to care. Serena shrugged. Or both. Asher groaned. Damn it, can't those damn teleportation have thrown me into a more normal world? Serena looked at him and asked, did you said anything? Asher shook his head. Instead, he let his eyes drift shut, exhaustion finally catching up to him as he fell asleep. Serena looked at Asher as he slept, a soft expression crossing her face. She gently tucked the blanket around him, watching his steady breathing. Ha! I wonder who you really are, Asher, she murmured under her breath. With a small sigh, she climbed into her own bed and soon fell asleep as well. The next morning, Asher woke up to the faint scent of earth and the sound of digging. Rubbing his eyes, he stepped outside, only to see Priest Peldit burying the bones of the dead in a small graveyard near the village. "What are you doing?" Asher asked, his voice still groggy from sleep. Peldit glanced at him while placing one last bone into the grave. "I'm helping them have a proper rest." Asher frowned slightly, noticing that these were the remains of the undead they had seen yesterday. "Did you turn them into undead just so they could say goodbye?" "Why else would I do it?" Peldit said, shrugging. "They deserved a final moment with their loved ones. Now that it's done, they can finally rest in peace." Asher remained silent for a moment before nodding. "Let us help then," he finally said. Serena, who had just stepped outside, nodded as well. "Same here." Together, they helped bury the last of the undead. The village elders chanted soft prayers, and soon the ceremony ended. Afterwards, Asher stretched his arms. "Thanks for everything, Peldit. But we have to leave now." Asher and Serena traveled along the worn dirt path, the sun barely visible behind thick, gray clouds. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of damp earth and distant rain. "How far is Myad City from here?" Serena asked, adjusting the straps of her bag. "About 2 days on foot," Asher replied, scanning the horizon. "If we find a merchant caravan, we might be able to hitch a ride." Serena sighed. "Great. More walking." "You can always fly," Asher teased, shaping a small pair of blood wings on his back for a moment before dispersing them. Serena shot him a glare. "And let you fly alone? I'd feel mad about it." Asher smirked. "Good. You should." Serena rolled her eyes, but there was a faint smile on her lips. Later that evening, the two set up camp near a small stream, the fire crackling softly in the quiet night. The stars peeked through the cloud cover, casting faint silver light over the forest. Serena leaned against a fallen log, sharpening her daggers. "So, what's the plan once we get to Myad City?" Asher poked the fire with a stick, his crimson eyes reflecting the flames. "First, we gather information about the Obsidian Kingdom and its connection to the dark god Volfong. Second, we find out if the Blood Cross has any influence here." Serena frowned. "You think they do?" "Possibly," Asher admitted. "They're fanatics, and they spread like a disease. If they have roots in Myad City, we need to be careful." Serena blew out a slow breath. "And if they don't?" "Then we focus on securing our place in this kingdom," Asher said. "We can't keep running forever. We need allies, resources, and a real plan to deal with Malfuz's followers." Serena fell silent, thinking. "You're really planning for the long term, huh?" Asher shrugged. "I don't have a choice." Serena looked at him for a moment before sighing. "All right. Then let's get to Myad City in one piece." Asher grinned. "That's the easy part." Serena tossed a twig at his face, making him chuckle. The night passed quietly, with only the distant howls of unknown creatures echoing through the trees. The next day, arrival at Myad City. Asher and Serena finally reached the gates of Myad City, a massive stone-walled metropolis bustling with merchants, adventurers, and armored guards. The banners of the Obsidian Kingdom hung from tall spires, displaying the dark sigil of a wolf howling under a crescent moon, the mark of Volfong. The guards at the entrance wore black and silver armor, their helmets shaped like wolf heads. "Halt," one of them said, stepping forward. "State your business in Myad City." Asher kept his expression neutral. "Travelers looking for work and information." The guard narrowed his eyes, scanning them for a moment before nodding. "No trouble, and you'll be fine. Cause problems, and you'll regret it." Serena smirked. "Sounds fair." The guards let them pass, and as soon as they stepped inside, Asher and Serena were greeted by the sights and sounds of the lively city: street vendors shouting, the scent of roasted meat in the air, and the distant ringing of a blacksmith's hammer. "Welcome to Myad City," Serena muttered, taking in the scene. Asher adjusted his cloak. "Time to find a guide. Explore more stories at my virtual library empire." Asher and Serena moved through the crowded streets, taking in the city's unique atmosphere. Unlike the well-structured cities of other kingdoms, Myad City had a more rugged, chaotic feel, a mix of medieval fortifications and lawless frontier towns. The streets were uneven, with cobbled roads turning to dirt paths at random, and the buildings looked old but sturdy, reinforced with black stone and iron. Serena nudged Asher. "So, where do we start?" "A tavern," Asher said immediately. Serena raised an eyebrow. "Really? You need a drink that bad?" Asher smirked. "No, but taverns are where information flows the fastest. If there's anyone who can tell us about Volfong or the Blood Cross, it's someone who drinks for a living." Serena rolled her eyes but didn't argue.
Fine.
Lead the way.
The Wolf's Fong Tavern.
The tavern they found was exactly what Asher expected. Dimly lit, filled with the scent of alcohol and sweat, and packed with all sorts of rough-looking individuals. Adventurers, mercenaries, and bounty hunters filled the room, drinking, gambling, and exchanging stories. Asher and Serena made their way to the bar, ignoring the occasional glances sent their way. They weren't exactly trying to be discreet, but Asher knew it was best to avoid drawing too much attention until they had a better grasp of the city's dynamics. A burly bartender, a scarred man with one eye and a thick gray beard, leaned forward. "You two new around here?"
Yeah, Asher admitted.
"Looking for work and information."
The bartender smirked.
"Well, you're in the right place for both. Depends on what kind of work you're looking for."
Serena leaned on the counter.
"Anything that pays well and doesn't get us killed."
The bartender chuckled.
"Not much of that around here, sweetheart. But I like your attitude." Asher slid a few silver coins across the counter. "What do you know about the Blood Cross?"
The bartender's smirk vanished.
The room didn't go silent, but Asher noticed a few nearby drinkers stiffen at the name. "You got a death wish, kid?" the bartender muttered, taking the coins anyway. "Just looking for answers," Asher said, keeping his tone calm. The bartender sighed, rubbing his forehead. "Listen, I don't know what rock you crawled out from under, but the Blood Cross ain't just some backwater cult. They're serious business. If they've got their eyes on you, you'd best leave Myad City before you end up with a dagger in your back." Asher exchanged a look with Serena.
"And what about Volfong?
How does he view them?"
The bartender snorted. "Volfong."
He glanced around before lowering his voice. "The Dark God ain't fond of Malfuz or his fanatics. They've tried to gain influence here before, but they never get far. Doesn't mean they don't have spies, though." Asher tapped his fingers against the wooden counter. "So, you're saying they have no real foothold in this kingdom?" "Not yet," the bartender admitted. "But that doesn't mean they aren't trying. You're best off keeping your head down and staying out of it." Serena crossed her arms, leaning closer. "What if we wanted to do more than just stay out of it?" The bartender gave her a long, calculating look before shaking his head. "If you're looking to pick a fight with the Blood Cross, you'd best be sure you can handle what comes after. I ain't getting involved in whatever mess you two are planning." Asher gave a small smirk.
"Fair enough.
Thanks for the warning." The bartender grumbled but took the coins without further protest. "If you want a guide, go talk to a man named Ronan Kess. He knows more about the city than anyone. You'll find him near the Eastern Marketplace, assuming he's not passed out drunk somewhere."
Asher nodded. "Appreciate it."
With that, he and Serena left the bar, heading toward the marketplace. Serena sighed. "We're really going to get involved in this whole mess, aren't we?"
Asher chuckled.
"Serena, we were involved the moment Gideon sent those assassins after us. Now we just need to make sure we're not the ones getting hunted."
She nodded.
"Then let's make some trouble." And with that, they disappeared into the crowded streets, searching for Ronan Kess. Navigating through Myad City's Eastern Marketplace, Asher and Serena kept their guards up. The market was noisy and chaotic, filled with merchants shouting their prices, customers haggling, and the occasional pickpocket slipping through the crowds. Asher scanned the area, looking for someone who fit the description of Ronan Kess, a man likely drunk, yet still aware enough to know the city's secrets. It didn't take long to find him. Slumped against a stack of wooden crates near a food stall, a scruffy man with messy dark hair and stubble sat with a half-empty bottle of some cheap liquor in his hand. His tattered cloak and rough appearance made him look like just another vagrant, but Asher could tell there was something more to him. The way his eyes subtly watched the crowd, the hidden tension in his posture, as if he was always ready to move. Serena sighed. "Great. Our guide is a drunk."
Asher smirked.
"We've dealt with worse." He walked over and kicked the crate Ronan was leaning against, jolting him awake. Ronan groaned, rubbing his face. "Unless you've got a drink to replace this one, piss off." Asher crouched down, holding out a silver coin. "We're looking for information, not trouble." Ronan raised an eyebrow, then snatched the coin from Asher's hand. He examined it lazily before tucking it away.
"Fine. What do you want?" "The Blood Cross," Asher said.
Ronan's relaxed expression immediately hardened. He took a swig from his bottle before muttering, "I don't talk about them." Asher wasn't surprised. He leaned in slightly. "Then what about Volfang's stance on them?" Ronan exhaled. "You people are either insanely brave or incredibly stupid." Your next read awaits at my virtual library empire.
Serena smirked.
Little bit of both, actually. Ronan gave her a tired look, then sighed.
All right, listen.
The Blood Cross wants influence here, but they don't have it. Volfong doesn't play well with other gods, and his kingdom doesn't tolerate cultists. But that doesn't mean they aren't trying. Rumor has it, they've been making deals with nobles, bribing officials, and even smuggling in their own people. Asher narrowed his eyes. So they're infiltrating the kingdom from the inside? Asher narrowed his eyes. So they're infiltrating the kingdom from the inside?
Looks that way, Ronan muttered.
And if that's true, then this place won't be safe for long. Serena folded her arms. If the king and Volfong don't want them here, why not just wipe them out?
Ronan scoffed.
Because you don't fight shadows with a sword. They don't operate openly. If Volfang's forces struck at them, they'd just disappear and resurface somewhere else. Asher tapped his fingers on his knee. Then what's their end goal? Ronan hesitated, then muttered, war.
Serena blinked. War. Ronan nodded.
The Blood Cross isn't just a cult, kid. They're a religious army.
And Malphus?
He's a god of slaughter. You think they're just gonna stop at one kingdom?
No.
They want to turn the entire continent into a battlefield. Asher and Serena exchanged glances.
Serena sighed. You were right.
We really did get ourselves into a mess.
Asher smirked. Told you.
Ronan took another drink before eyeing them.
So, what's your deal?
Why are you asking about this? Asher didn't answer immediately. He could tell Ronan was sharp, too sharp for an ordinary drunk.
Instead, he smiled.
Let's just say, we don't like the Blood Cross either. Ronan studied him for a moment before chuckling.
All right, fine. I'll help you.
Serena raised an eyebrow. Just like that.
Ronan grinned.
You paid me, didn't you? Besides, I hate those bastards too. I'll take you where you need to go, but I hope you're ready for a fight, because if you plan on messing with the Blood Cross, they won't let you walk away alive.
Asher smirked.
They can try. Ronan laughed, shaking his head. All right then, kid. Let's get to work. Asher, of course, never trusted anyone without first activating his absolute appraisal, which he did the moment he met Ronan. And just as he suspected, this man had a deep personal grudge against the Blood Cross. In a way, Ronan was merely using Asher to fuel his own revenge. Not that Asher minded. While Ronan was weaker compared to the high-ranking members of the Blood Cross, he had collected enough information over the years to expose their hidden operations. Of course, exposing them was easier said than done. Most people lacked the courage or the power to do anything about it. But now, seeing Asher's confidence and strength, Ronan was starting to reconsider. Perhaps, with Asher's help, he could eliminate some of the weaker Blood Cross members before they could spread their influence further into Myad City. He had originally only planned to guide Asher and watch from the shadows, but now? Now he was thinking of taking action himself. After all, if they didn't deal with the Blood Cross now, there was no guarantee the cult wouldn't come knocking on their doors in the middle of the night when they least expected it. Ronan needs might while Asher need their location, so in a way they are both using each other. Asher walked through the bustling streets of Myad City, his crimson eyes scanning the surroundings while Serena kept pace beside him. The city was lively, filled with merchants, adventurers, and civilians going about their daily routines. Yet, beneath the surface, there was an uneasy tension, as if people were aware of something lurking in the shadows but chose to ignore it. Ronan, walking slightly ahead, glanced over his shoulder. This city might look normal, but the Blood Cross has their claws deep in it. There are entire districts under their control, and the city guards? Half of them turn a blind eye, while the other half are too afraid to act.
Serena frowned.
Then why hasn't the ruling power of this kingdom done anything?
Ronan scoffed.
You think the Obsidian Kingdom cares? Volfong might not support Malphus, but he's still a god. The people here follow his will. As long as the Blood Cross doesn't threaten his authority, he won't intervene.
Asher hummed in thought.
Then that means we have free reign.
Ronan blinked. Ha! Asher smirked.
If the kingdom won't stop us, and the Blood Cross doesn't have full control, then we can move however we want. That means we can start hunting their members one by one without worrying about interference. Ronan exhaled, shaking his head. You're either insanely confident or completely insane.
Serena smirked.
Both, actually. They stopped near a small tavern, one of the few neutral places in the city. Ronan gestured for them to enter. This place is safe. No Blood Cross influence here. Asher and Serena followed him inside, taking a seat at a dimly lit corner table.
Ronan leaned forward.
Listen, I've identified a few key members in Myad City. If we take them down, we can cripple their local operations. But be warned, some of them aren't just regular cultists. They're enhanced, and some even possess forbidden abilities granted by Malfuz.
Asher smirked.
Doesn't matter. He tapped the table, his fingers drumming against the wood.
Give me names. Locations.
We'll handle the rest.
Ronan hesitated, then sighed. All right.
The first target is Drevian Kale, a Bloodcross Inquisitor. He operates from the lower district, running a conversion camp where people who oppose the Bloodcross disappear. So he is our first target, Asher said as Ronan nodded. The dim glow of lanterns barely illuminated the backstreets of Myad City's lower district. The air was thick with the stench of blood, sweat, and decay, a telltale sign that this part of the city belonged to the Bloodcross. Explore more stories at my virtual library empire. Asher, Serena, and Ronan moved like shadows, navigating the alleys toward their target's domain. Drevian Kale, the Bloodcross Inquisitor, was notorious for his cruel methods of conversion. Methods that left few alive to tell the tale. His base is an old warehouse at the edge of the district, Ronan whispered, his hand resting on his weapon. Most people who enter never come out. He's got guards, traps, and likely some fanatic enforcers inside. Asher cracked his knuckles, a dark glint in his eyes. Then we kill them all.
Serena smirked.
For once, I agree with your brutal methods. They reached the outskirts of the warehouse, its rusted metal doors shut tight. 2 guards stood at the entrance, both wearing red robes marked with the sigil of Malfuz. Their weapons gleamed under the flickering streetlight. They reached the outskirts of the warehouse, its rusted metal doors shut tight. 2 guards stood at the entrance, both wearing red robes marked with the sigil of Malfuz. Their weapons gleamed under the flickering streetlight. Leave them to me, Serena whispered before vanishing into the darkness. Asher and Ronan waited in silence, hearing nothing but the distant sound of the city.
Then, SHNK.
A blade silently pierced a guard's throat, and before the second could react, Serena emerged from behind, slitting his throat in one swift motion. Both bodies collapsed without a sound. All clear, she whispered, wiping her daggers clean.
Asher smirked. Efficient as always.
With the entrance unguarded, they pushed open the heavy doors and stepped inside. The stench of burnt flesh and old blood hit them immediately. Inside, a row of iron cages lined the walls, filled with malnourished prisoners, their eyes hollow with despair. Some had ritualistic carvings on their skin, others had missing limbs, victims of the cult's twisted conversion process. A man sat on a throne-like chair at the far end of the warehouse, his crimson robes drenched in dried blood. His pale face twisted into a grin as he stood, clapping slowly. You must be the troublemakers I've heard so much about, Drevian Kale said, his voice dripping with amusement. Did you come to join us, or are you here to die? Asher's lips curled into a dangerous smile.
Neither.
With a flick of his wrist, blood spears erupted from the ground, impaling the nearest cultists. Drevian's grin faltered.
Ah, I see.
You're here to entertain me. The Inquisitor raised his hands, and the ritual markings on the prisoners' bodies glowed a sickly red. The caged victims began to scream in agony, their bodies twisting unnaturally. Asher's eyes narrowed. He's trying to turn them into fiends. Then we stop him now, Serena growled, drawing her daggers. Drevian laughed, his eyes gleaming with madness. Let's see if you can. Drevian Kale's laughter echoed through the warehouse as the glow of the ritual markings on the prisoners intensified. Their screams turned into guttural roars, their bodies contorting as veins darkened into crimson sigils, an unmistakable sign of fiend transformation. Asher's expression hardened. If they fully transformed, there would be no saving them.
Serena, cut them down before they turn, he ordered.
Serena hesitated for only a second before nodding. Her daggers ignited with blue hellfire, and she vanished in a blur.
SHNK. SHNK.
Her blades found their marks, severing throats and hearts before the mutations could complete. The air filled with the sickening sound of flesh being torn apart, and within seconds, half the prisoners lay lifeless, spared from becoming monsters. You dare! Drevian bellowed, his face twisting with rage. With a swipe of his blood-soaked hands, the remaining prisoners exploded, their bodies bursting like overripe fruit. The dark energy from their deaths surged into Drevian, his muscles bulging, his veins turning pitch black. He was absorbing their life force. Filthy heretics, I will tear you apart. Drevian roared as he lunged forward, moving twice as fast as before. Ronan barely dodged in time, rolling to the side as Drivian's fist shattered the stone floor where he had stood. He's stronger now,
Ronan shouted.
Asher didn't hesitate. He extended his hand, and the blood from the fallen cultists rose into the air, hardening into razor-sharp spears. With a flick of his fingers, they shot forward like bullets. Drivian snarled and swept his arm, causing a wave of crimson energy to explode outward, shattering the spears before they could reach him. Your little tricks won't work on me, the Inquisitor sneered.
Asher smirked. He wasn't done yet.
Blood spikes erupted from the ground beneath Drivian, impaling his legs before he could react.
Gah!
Drivian staggered, his regeneration unable to keep up with the sheer control Asher had over the battlefield.
Serena now! Asher commanded.
Serena dashed forward, spinning mid-air as she drove both daggers into Drivian's chest, twisting them before ripping them out. Blood sprayed as Drivian coughed violently, but the fanatic only laughed. You think this is enough? He rasped, blood spilling from his lips. I have given everything to Malfuz.
SHNK.
Asher drove a crimson blade through Drivian's heart, twisting it cruelly. Drivian gasped, his body convulsing as the light in his eyes dimmed.
You talk too much, Asher muttered.
With a final push, Asher ripped his blood blade upward, splitting Drivian's torso in half. The Inquisitor let out a choked gurgle before collapsing into a pool of his own blood.
A heavy silence followed.
Serena wiped her daggers clean.
One down.
Asher looked at Drivian's mangled corpse.
But many more to go. Ronan exhaled. We need to move.
The Blood Cross will notice he's missing soon.
Asher nodded.
Then let's disappear before they come looking. With the stench of death still clinging to them, the trio slipped into the shadows, leaving behind nothing but the ruins of the Blood Cross's first major loss. The air outside the warehouse was thick with tension. Asher, Serena, and Ronan moved swiftly, their footsteps silent against the damp cobblestone streets of Myad City. The night was their only ally, but it wouldn't protect them for long. They'll notice Drivian is dead soon, Ronan muttered, scanning the rooftops. We need to leave the city before sunrise. Serena wiped the sweat from her brow. Where to? Asher's gaze was sharp. The Obsidian Kingdom.
Ronan hesitated. You sure?
The dark god Volfong isn't exactly known for his kindness. We don't need kindness, Asher said coldly. We need a place where Malfuz's dogs won't follow. Serena crossed her arms. Fine, but first, how are we getting out? The city gates will be locked down soon, and teleportation magic is out of the question, too risky. Before Asher could answer, a loud explosion shook the ground.
Boom.
The three turned sharply toward the sound, only to see a pillar of fire rising from the Blood Cross stronghold. Looks like they found Drivian, Ronan said grimly. Then the bells rang, a deep echoing chime that sent shivers down their spines.
Blood hunt. Serena cursed.
They've declared a full lockdown. The streets erupted with chaos as armored enforcers poured out of buildings, torches in hand. We need to go now,
Asher ordered.
The trio darted through the alleys, avoiding patrols as best they could. Every corner was filled with guards, hunters, and fanatics eager to spill blood in their god's name. Serena ducked behind a barrel, peering out carefully. Too many at the eastern gate. If we try to break through, we'll be swarmed. Find your next adventure on my virtual library empire.
Ronan clenched his fists.
There's another way, through the underground canals. Asher narrowed his eyes.
You sure? Ronan nodded.
Used by smugglers. Leads to the outer district, near the west cliffs. If we make it there, we can disappear into the wilderness. Serena exhaled. Then what are we waiting for? As they made their way toward an abandoned tavern, the sky lit up red. A figure floated above the city, draped in flowing crimson robes, a golden mask covering his face. Serena's breath hitched. That's High Priest Andrus.
Ronan paled. Shit.
That's the head inquisitor of Myad City. If he finds us. Asher didn't hesitate. Move faster. They burst into the abandoned tavern, quickly barricading the door behind them. Ronan kicked open a trapdoor, revealing a dark passage leading beneath the city. Hurry. One by one, they descended into the cold, damp tunnels, the sounds of the hunt raging above them. The further they went, the narrower the tunnels became, the air thick with the stench of sewage and decay. Serena grimaced. I hate this already. Asher ignored her, focusing on the distant echo of water. Ronan led the way, guiding them through the winding canals.
Almost there. Then,
A whispering sound filled the tunnel. Serena's eyes widened. Magic!
Boom!
The tunnel collapsed behind them, cutting off their escape route. Andrus's voice echoed through the darkness. Running, like rats in the sewers. Did you truly think you could escape?
A chill ran down their spines.
They weren't alone down here. The suffocating darkness of the underground tunnel pressed in around them. Dust and debris from the collapsed passage still hung in the air, making it hard to breathe. Serena coughed, waving a hand in front of her face. We're trapped. Ronan cursed under his breath. That bastard knew we'd use the canals. This was a trap from the start. Asher's scarlet eyes gleamed in the dim light. His blood sense stretched out, scanning the surroundings.
Footsteps. Not just one or two, dozens. From both ahead and behind.
They're closing in. Then, Andrus's voice whispered through the tunnel, carried by unnatural magic. You cannot run forever, little sinner. Surrender, and I will make your death painless. Serena gritted her teeth. That bastard really thinks we'll just kneel? Ronan unsheathed his dagger. He's toying with us. We need to break through before they tighten the noose. Asher's mind raced. The only way forward was through whatever lay deeper in these tunnels. We move, he ordered, already walking.
Now.